friends, and welcome back to Like Anime. It's the anime podcast that you're now listening to. That's all I can really say about it. My name's George, and Tony's here.
I am Tony, and I am here.
Welcome.
And so is George.
We're doing roll call.
Welcome, George.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I never welcome you. You always welcome me. Like I'm a guest or something.
No, I was welcoming the listeners, and then
Oh.
then I'm saying, oh, Tony's here too. How are you, Tony?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Wasn't actually asking. That was like part of the quotations. No, I'm kidding. I'm doing good. We are here for something that I'm calling a SHOUJO showdown.
I'm not calling it that.
As we all know, in every shoujo show, there's always some big competition, a lot of fighting and, a tournament saga. No, I'm kidding. But we got two shoujos to talk about. Two lovely dramas. I mean, there's romance in here and there a little bit. But yeah, we don't often shine a light on some good shoujo, but I think we got a couple good ones here.
I mean, that's mostly what I watch anyway, is shoujo stuff, I think. But
Okay.
I mean, think about last season.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, a slice of life I would put in a category. I mean, shoujo I guess can be like a whole thing, but I guess like shoujo drama, like straight up drama.
The Saint's magic power is omnipotent.
Yeah, that feels more like slice of life. But you did have like Remake Our Life, which I haven't watched this season.
Yeah.
But then last season that you were greatly disappointed by it, but it was the Hige Hero. Is that what it was?
Hige Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was drama, right?
Yeah. It tried.
You did.
No, it tried.
Oh, it tried.
To be drama.
Oh, it tried to be drama, and
Yeah.
you tried to give it a shot, and
Yeah.
it didn't work out so well.
Well, I watched all of it, but
Well, yeah.
I guess it's better than a lot of shows. But at the same time, yeah, it was
But,
Anyway.
But
Speaking of shows that are we're not doing them on this show because we're talking about Kageki Shojo and Fruits Basket.
yeah,
And first up, we're going to talk about Kageki Shojo.
yes. Let's jump right in. We talked
right.
about this a little bit when we were doing. We kind of changed it up. We were doing like episode, week by week,
Right, the
kind of
week-to-week
reviews,
episodic stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about the first half already.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you who haven't heard that, do a recap here of
All right.
what this whole thing's about.
Read the cap.
Read the cap, Captain. So mainly the show is about these girls, like high school age girls, joining this theater troupe, which I was reading about is based on and it's an all-female, strictly all-female troupe, like music and theater. But it's based on the actual. I was reading an article about this on Anime News Network. Shout that out. I forget the author's name because it was sort of like a handle. It wasn't like an actual name. Didn't stick with me, but it's on there. It's basically about the history of this. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Takadazuka Theater.
Sounds about right.
Or Takadazuka Review is what it's technically called. But yes, during the Taisho era, a lot of Japan was bringing in a lot of Western kind of culture and different things. And
When is the Taisho era?
Well, it was post the Meiji Restoration period. I forget the exact year.
Okay.
I didn't write that down. I'm so sorry.
Early 20s, maybe? Does that sound right?
Like at least like turn of the century.
Okay.
Um,
I was just guessing early 20s because in the show, it's their 100th year.
Oh, that's true.
But then again, maybe this was originally from like 10 years ago, right? The manga. So
Yeah.
maybe their 100th year was, 2014 or whatever.
Let's see, the Takadazuka Review was founded in 1913.
Oh, okay.
So
So
just
that makes
about.
sense with the 100 years, with this manga originally having been released in 2014, I think, right?
Oh, okay. Wasn't it? Was it then? Yeah, I don't remember the exact year. But yeah, that's right around that time. And so I was reading about I don't know, it's kind of interesting to read about the history of it because I didn't know a lot. Clearly in this show, they touch on kabuki theater, if you will. And that's how largely been male dominated. Like they would allow like small girls, like children essentially to be in it. But once you reach a certain age, it was like all male, and like the men would play the female parts, a la like Shakespeare back in the day. And so this was kind of, I think, essentially like a response to that. I don't think it was like influenced by like a like a feminist agenda or anything. It just kind of happened that way. But yeah, this show focuses on that world, and we have two leads that I think they're like co-leads. Like it's about them,
Yeah.
sort of equally, but definitely about their relationship for sure. But we got Narata. She's the sort of quiet, stone-faced one, hard to read.
Former idol.
Yeah, she's a former idol, the JPX.
She dislikes men in general.
Yeah, there's exactly one male person in her life that she trusts and respects.
Right.
But she also doesn't like have a lot of people in her circle at the beginning either. He's kind of it.
Yeah.
As we learn a little bit later. But yeah, so we have her. She's coming off the heels of quitting her idol, leaving her idol past behind her and joining this theater troupe. And we learn later that it's because specifically, like, she thought the idol would be a good thing because she's on stage with mostly women. But then she didn't take into account the fans are largely men. And so she had a run-in, some run-ins with fans and just overall distaste for having to deal with all that, which of course, even if you didn't like, idol fans are pretty extreme.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them, especially, the ones that are going to come see you, right? And stand in
Right.
your line for hours. But so she hears about the it's called the Koka acting troupe. And so she joins that because it's there are some male teachers, but it's mostly like the audience is female, the fans are largely female. Not that they ban men from coming to the shows, but all the students are female and most of the teachers too. So just comforted by that. And then we have also starting in the same class with her is Sarasa Watanabe. Watanabe.
Yeah.
Watanabe. But yeah, what is she like?
She's very tall.
She is tall girl.
Yeah. And we get, I think most of her backstory we get, well, in episode 7, I guess we get even more of it.
About
But
midway
we get quite a bit of it through the first several episodes that we already covered. But
That's true.
so yeah, we get a fair amount of her backstory up through episode 7. She grew up going to school for kabuki theater, or going to class or something, I guess, basically for kabuki. And she has a very close friend who is her age, a boy who's her age that has been doing kabuki for, well, he's in like one of the families that,
it's like being passed down.
Right. The lineages of the kabuki. And yeah, she grows up like learning how to do that because she's interested in it, because she saw something with her grandma when she was little or something. And someone tells her that, yeah, you're great, but you'll never be, a famous kabuki actor because you're a female.
Yeah.
And, you're going to age out at whatever age it is. And so then she started pursuing this female troupe, wanting to do that, and then ends up getting in on her first try, as did I also.
Yes.
That's something that comes up with some of the other girls, how
That's
they
true.
tried multiple times to get into this school and failed. But yeah, they both get in on their first try. I, because she's a former idol, probably, I guess, she's kind of got the chops for working on stage.
Yeah.
And
she's already got name recognition too.
Yeah. And Sarasa has an inherent natural talent, basically, it seems.
Yeah, they see something in her, but I think also her being tall, because I was reading about when I was reading that article about the history of the Takarazuka theater, that was like a thing, because they
for the otoku-yaku.
Yeah, so it's the ones playing the male parts. Yeah, they kind of need someone taller.
I said that word wrong, but it's okay.
Because
Otoko-yaku. I said otoku-yaku.
And then Otoko Musume is
no,
the other one?
Otoko means boy.
Oh, does it?
So Musume-yaku probably.
Oh, Musume-yaku. Okay. Yeah, I didn't write those. I didn't write those in my notes, but yeah, those are like the terms that if you're going to be playing mostly female parts or if you're going to do male parts, and if you're doing male parts, it's like you gotta typically be a little taller.
God, George, how many times are you going to say male parts in this? We're gonna get flagged
Male
for sure.
roles. Sorry, people.
This is a show about female parts and male parts. in theater productions, you know.
But anyway, so these two, they meet. Well, I guess what I was going to say about Sarasa is that her personality is more like, I wrote cheerful to a fault. She's just like super engaged in the moment, and she doesn't really concern herself with, I mean, I don't think just by design, not by like a conscious decision, but she's kind of an airhead, you know, she kind of just bounces along, and, you know, she speaks up, you know, when she probably shouldn't, and, you know, is loud, and
she's very boisterous and outgoing.
Yeah.
You know?
And so they first meet during like, I think it's like the opening ceremony of the new students, and the students are all gathered in front of the school, and there's this giant cherry blossom tree, and unbeknownst to them and us, there's some sort of, you know, unspoken taboo about going underneath this cherry blossom tree. Like, I don't know if it's at all, like, ever during your
no, it's during the day of the opening ceremony.
just the opening day.
Yeah.
And so they don't know this, we don't know that, or that, you know, I and Sarasa don't know this, and I, you know, approaches it, and then Sarasa, this is how they meet, she like comes up on her and it's just like, hey.
I could understand like I not knowing, but Sarasa is sort of into this stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as some of the other girls, but you would think that she would knew
a little bit more
heard about it or known about it or something.
Yeah.
But it totally makes sense. She would be completely
no idea. Yeah. She didn't do any research. She was just like,
even if she did know, she probably wouldn't care, because it's just kind of her personality.
And I think they have that in common, not coming from the same place, but like Sarasa, to me it makes sense because she is such kind of like doesn't think things through, and doesn't like, you know, she just acts on impulse. And so I feel like she like saw you know, doing it, and she was like, oh, I'm gonna go say hi to her and, you know, introduce myself. And
she basically just walks up and goes, hi, I want to be your friend. I don't think that's the actual line, but that's basically the gist of it.
That's the vibe.
Yeah.
And I is not into it.
No.
And there's the first few episodes of this show are quite funny. I thought, like, I was kind of taken with it right away, because going into it, I saw the trailer we did, and I was just like, I don't know, but that was kind of the first thing that like got me. You entertained me.
You didn't like the eyelashes.
I know I didn't, and it's funny because eyelashes are quite thick, but then it's early on, it's referenced, like she's kind of, when we get her backstory, like she's it's one of her character traits, like she has, you know, very luscious thick eyelashes. And the other characters aren't as like thick and stuff, but it did kind of turn me off in the trailer. I didn't know that it was an intentional, you know, character thing, but yeah, that did turn me off. But once I started watching it, the comedy, because it just felt so like kind of, I could just imagine it in real life, but them just being at odds, you know. And so they go to, you know, they enter the school or whatever, doing the opening ceremony, and then they're finally assigned dorms. And so they, you know, Ai's like, oh, I hope my roommate's, you know, chill, and like, you know, I hope I like her.
I hope my roommate died and he doesn't show up.
Yeah, or that too.
Basically.
She's just like very, you know, worried about it, and to, you know, for good reason, because it turns out to be Sarasa is her roommate. And then there's this whole thing where like Ai creates like a barrier.
Yeah, puts up a barrier. This is your half of the room. This is my half of the room.
And Sarasa's just so cute, like a puppy. Like she just doesn't get it. She's just like sticking her head through the barrier, like, "Hi, what's going on?" So it was pretty great, just setting up like not only their character, you know, their characters, but the dynamic of their relationship. Yeah, and then I guess just to bullet points with them, they end up bonding a little later on.
Yeah. The first half of this season is basically just them sort of not getting along, and Sarasa annoying Ai by wanting to be friends with her, and then being disappointed when Ai is like, no, go away, leave me alone. And yeah, it's a lot of that for the first half. And then the second half is after they sort of reach this point of becoming not necessarily friends right away, but... acquaintances who tolerate each other. Well, I don't know. Yeah.
I think they do become friends because
Oh, they do later. But
yes,
I'm saying it like the halfway
There's
point.
like a
they
transition,
haven't quite become friends yet, but they're kind of sort of becoming friends.
Yeah. And it's mostly because I guess because Sarasa is so like doesn't pick up cues, or I don't know, she's just so like got her head firmly in the clouds. But then
and at the same time, because I is
yes,
very just like, I don't need friends, I don't need anybody,
And once we get her backstory, Ai's backstory, which we don't have to go into in great detail.
It's funny because the two of them together are tsundere.
Pretty
Anyway,
much.
yeah.
They're just like separated. But yeah, once we get Ai's backstory, which I don't want to go into great detail on because it's good storytelling, but it's very intense.
Yeah.
And we already covered it.
Yeah.
But essentially, she has a very traumatic experience, just in general, with her mom being very distant and evasive and not really, caring towards her. She was an actress and just kind of all about that image,
Yeah, it's kind of funny because in later episodes they reference her mom, and it seems like she has fond memories of her mom. Even though early on we're sort of led to believe like her life with her mom was just terrible.
Just all bad, yeah. Which I guess it's just trying to convey that trauma. But I like that later on because it's like, okay, because even when, you have a very tumultuous upbringing and your parents are, if that's your story, like there's still some good moments, right?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
So
there
it
certainly
kind
would
of
be.
gives it some nuance there.
Yeah.
But essentially, she had a stepdad that was really effed up, and she carries a lot of trauma with that. But also, she doesn't let anyone into her circle. She's very very much running, and I think she ran from her mom, and then she gets into doing the idol thing, and then she ends up running from that, and so now she's at this Coca school, and she's still in the running mode, I think, until her and Sarasa kind of have a moment, and I don't know, it's a whole thing with like a fan that had kind of creeped her out, but like wanted to, then she ended up quitting, and he felt bad, so he wanted to track her down and apologize.
Yeah, he felt like he was the reason that she quit or was asked to leave or something, because he was, he showed up and he was kind of creepy at one of the fan events where she's like signing autographs and stuff, and she said some very blunt things to him about not liking him, and that's not allowed when you're an idol. So then she left.
And she's also terrified of men just in general.
Right.
So it's like.
So then she left shortly after that, and then so he felt guilty that he had been the reason that she ended up quitting, because it was him that she had yelled at. Anyway, and he comes to try and make some reparations or whatever. And that doesn't go well for him.
Because once she sees him, she remembers him, and all she can think of is that like he wants retaliation, or that he's here to, like she's just you see it in her face. She's just stricken with
her brain goes into danger mode. Just
fight or flight. Yeah. And
she chooses flight.
she runs, and once again, like she's either metaphorically or like literally running. And who does she run into but Sarasa? And Sarasa, long story short, she kind of mediates the situation and kind of helps, not only helps to understand where I is coming from a little more, but then where this other guy is coming from, and she does really well at just doing that, just kind of, and I kind of has a change of heart after that, where she starts to feel bad about how she admonished Sarasa, was a jerk to her, or like wouldn't wake her up in the morning because she sleeps in, and stuff like that, like
sleeps through her alarm.
and then there's this funny, like after that all happens, it's all very believable, like character wise, but then there's this funny switch again, where it's like it went from I trying to evade Sarasa to comic effect, and now it's I trying to be friends with Sarasa and be nice to her, and she doesn't know how to do that. Like not just with her, but like with anyone. She's
even just calling her by her first name.
Yeah. There's so many scenes where she's like Sa, and then she's like Watanabe san or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so funny and cute. It's really good. This show has a lot of good like little character moments like that could be funny or dramatic or whatever, but I don't know, it fits nicely, and I appreciate it.
All right. So that, I mean, I think we've pretty well summed up the first half of the season.
Yeah,
That.
the main thrust of it.
All right. And then, yeah, the later half of the season is after they've become friends. Then we start getting more into, them building their friendship, but also more into the school stuff, I think,
Yeah.
Like the earlier episodes focus a lot on just them and very little of the school. And now after that, we're focusing more on the school, like what's actually going on in the school, some of the other students, which we've had sort of limited exposure to or knowledge of in the first half.
That's true. We do get introduced to I wrote down her name, Hijiri, which becomes she becomes Ai's mentor, but she's one of the second year students. And it's only a 2-year program or whatever you call it. But she's very like seems nice and friendly, but is entirely conniving and backstabbing and is very much I don't know, passive aggressive, I suppose. Is a good, but just like all the time, like it's just always on. Like everything she says has like biting sarcasm and just just kind of being a jerk.
Yeah, she's sort of a mean girl who's just out for. She's there. I mean, she is there for herself, as is everyone. But she's just much more forward about that. I think.
Yeah, like entirely upfront about it.
I don't think she hides it like others would.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Sarasa has a mentor as well. Her name's Risa. And it kind of comes back later. But in the first part, like we get introduced to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone else is kind of like a mystery. Even in the class, like as we go, we start to learn more about everyone else.
We see some of them and, like they're in conversations and stuff occasionally, but we don't really know much about them until the second half.
That's true. And so, I guess, like there's a part midway through that we touched on with that episode 7 where it's like summer break and I ends up going with Sarasa back to her home, and so she gets to meet Sarasa's quote unquote boyfriend. Her boyfriend Akia is the same gentleman you.
People can't hear air quotes, George.
Yes, they can. Just listen closely and take it personally. So he's the childhood friend that you were talking about earlier of Sarasa's, and so they, because I was reading about this too, that in the Takarazuka, the real life thing, even to this day, if you get married, that's it. Like you're done. You're out of the troupe. That's still a part of it. And so I think that is reflected in here because there's a point before they go on summer vacation where Sarasa is just like, oh yeah, I have a boyfriend, and they're all like, what? You have a boyfriend? What the heck? And I think a boyfriend is okay, but it's kind of like kind of frowned on a little bit maybe, of where like you should be focused on this, not because if you get married, you're donezo.
I think that's sort of true of idols as well, right?
Oh, probably, yeah. You got to maintain that purity, huh?
Yeah. Even like the older one. I don't know. I guess there are some idols that were really successful, like when they were younger, and then they got married and have turned it into a successful career after that. I guess they're still considered idols. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe an exception to the thing.
Off topic, I think. But.
Yeah, but I think it applies. I mean, I was an ex-idol, or is an ex-idol, so it has relevance there. And but yeah, so they're all the classmates are like shocked by that. But then when we actually learn, we learn more about him and his whole struggle with the kabuki theater and how she ties into that. You already touched on that. But then we learn that they like shake hands. They're not really like that intimately involved, but they're really close from being childhood friends. And we get a scene. I'm jumping ahead here, I know, but towards the end of the season where we see that they kind of made like an agreement, where she was like, cause he has like an older brother or like an uncle or something that like is way involved and cares a lot about Sarasa and is always kind of giving him crap about it.
So in an earlier episode, it was mentioned that there's a rumor that her father is this famous kabuki theater actor. That's him.
Oh, that's Sarasa's father?
Yeah.
And that's her dad?
It's rumored that that's her father.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
that she's an
Interesting.
illegitimate child of his.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, and
But it's still not like proven, like within, in context. Like it's just a rumor.
right,
Still.
right. It was a rumor, and yeah, no one ever says for certain any which way, whether it's true. Like I think Sarasa doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
I think most people don't know. He would be the only one that probably really knows.
Okay, so that would make sense why he's like so, attentive to her, and he texts her and stuff, and has some level of involvement that kind of felt like awkward or creepy, but if that would that would excuse all that. But yeah, so they have a conversation, those two gentlemen, that we get like a flashback to, of he's like, you should marry that girl, and she overhears it, and then so later they go to an aquarium, which I thought was funny because another good drama that's on this season is Aquatope, which is continuing, but it's all about set in an aquarium essentially.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of funny. The two of my favorite shows this season, they're both centered around these two girls and where they're at in life and their relationships, and one of each is an ex-idol, and there's aquariums. Anyway. Just amuse me, but yeah, she says like that we should be girlfriend and boyfriend, and so it's kind of more like just like a pact more than like a romantic gesture.
yeah, and it's sort of weird because I think Sarasa genuinely has like romantic feelings towards him.
Yeah.
And I think he might have romantic, kind of unclear because we don't know his character that well, but I think he might have romantic feelings towards her. But then because there's this pressure being put on him, he feels awkward, asking her out because he feels like, oh, no, I'm just doing it because he told me to. And Sarasa also feels somewhat awkward about it because she overheard the conversation. And so her asking him out is trying to save him from having to ask her out because she can tell he feels awkward about it. I don't know. It's a very strange thing. Like, would they have eventually dated and maybe, gotten married and stuff like that? Yeah, they might have, I think they each have, some pretty strong feelings towards each other.
Yeah.
But then this added pressure coming from theoretically her dad or his basically the next generation up of the kabuki actors that he aspires to be, I guess. Having that pressure coming from him makes their whole relationship just weird and awkward, right?
Yeah.
And they both know that it's now weird and awkward.
Yeah. And he seems like sort of a, not wishy-washy, but not a very headstrong kind of person either, so that he would just and speaking of, being around this age, teenagers trying to, not being sure what their feelings are, and needing to be pushed to a place to reach that conclusion, which is a bit of a taste of what's coming up in Fruits Basket. But yeah, so they kind of and that's the thing with this season. They laid a lot of like seeds of good character like development, but like it's setting it up for hopefully more seasons to come, I think. But that's one of them. And then after that, we get into more school stuff. Like there's the sports festival. It's kind of this big to do.
Are we just skipping over Kaoru's summer?
Oh, that's true. I did have notes on here. About her.
It's sort of like a side episode, but there's some good content in it.
That's true, and it ties into her. Like she has a really cool moment in the end of the season that I like. So yeah, we should probably set that up.
So after we learn all this, well, not all of everything that we just said about Sarasa, but some of the stuff, after we get Sarasa's backstory, we basically get a backstory from a girl called Kaoru, who's another girl in the class who wants to be an otoku yaku.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's sort of a sweet but bitter story, I guess. She what is it? She meets this boy that goes to a different school at a bus stop because she's going to visit her grandmother who's in the hospital.
Yeah.
That's the only reason she ever goes to this bus stop is because she's visiting her grandmother.
Yeah.
And she feels a lot of pressure. Well, not that she feels pressure, I guess, because she says specifically. That's not it.
Yeah,
Later,
she's
but
misunderstood. Yeah,
yes, a lot of people think, oh, well, you've got natural talent to do this acting thing because your grandma did it and your mom did it and everything. So, you'll be fine. You're just like them,
yeah,
And she's sort of annoyed by that. And this boy plays baseball, and his older brother is, really doing well in baseball, I guess, really well known.
like everyone knows him.
And he has the same thing where, anytime he's having difficulty, they're like, oh, well, so-and-so's your big brother, so you'll be fine. It runs in your family or whatever, right? And so they both have that in common, and they sort of bond over that and talk about things. And anyway, and it's this, sort of sweet love story that builds over the course of, I think it's just one summer, right?
Yeah, and it's the summer before she gets into the Koka school.
Right. And she's already auditioned for it once or twice before, I think, and this is like her last chance, I think, right?
Yeah, she's like a senior, and this is her last hurrah.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's her last chance to get into the school, and she makes it, of course, because she's one of Ai and Saras's classmates. But yeah, then she sort of breaks off the relationship at the end of the summer because I don't know. I mean, the reason on the surface appears to be because he said something that upset her, but that's not really it. There's something underlying.
Yeah. And I think she's, I don't know. It's like they're both kind of confused. Maybe not confused, but like, it's like they share that in common. Like you said, like they're both kind of compared to their, their family members that came before them. And so he kind of, and then she gets this a lot too of like, oh, like, maybe that's not what you want to do, like maybe, just because, like, I think her grandma tells her like, oh, just because I did this, doesn't mean, you have to, but she really does want it. But I think this boy that she falls for during this summer, he feels a little differently. He feels like he doesn't maybe want to do this. And I think he kind of puts that on her. Like, maybe you do too.
Right. Which is the thing that they were both complaining about before, is people putting all of these things on them, assigning things to them. And anyway, so she gets upset at that.
But then later she's like walking down the street and there's a baseball game going on that he's in, and
it's like a championship sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's
like a semifinals or something.
Yeah. It's to get into the championship series, I guess, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
And he's up until this point in the season has been just a bench warmer, but he actually gets to hit it, to bat. Mm-hmm. And he knocks it out of the park, and they make it to the finals, but then they don't go any further.
Right. But the one that she sees on the TV is when they make it to the finals.
Yeah. And she's like,
she gets really emotional about that, despite having told him off like a week before or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then later we see him the next summer, so the summer that we're seeing now, when we saw Sarasa's summer and Ai's summer, he goes and hangs up a letter, basically an open letter on the bus stop, and says, hey, person who I met here, without saying her name or anything, and then just sort of writes a little letter to her, since she blocked him on her phone for some reason. Like, God, she's so... Anyway.
So dramatic.
But it's a sweet little interesting side story that, doesn't really have much impact on anything else going on, but it's about her character, and, in the coming episodes, we get a little bit more of her character. Since, like I said, we didn't really see any of these other characters in the first 6 or so episodes. Now we're starting to get more of the troops characters in, and anyway, so that's Kaoru's summer.
It was a good backstory, and I think it's another one of those things. Like, if we get a second season, I could totally see like him resurfacing, them bumping into each other or something. Yeah. And this rekindling all these feelings within her, and then she's going to become conflicted about like she's not supposed to be dating, or having like a personal relationship like that while she's in the troops. I'm imagining some good steamy drama with that, and then maybe them trying to like keep it secret. And I don't know. There's so many little things in this that have kind of been set up that clearly I don't want it. None of this was rushed to me. I like the pacing, but I'm like, damn, I want more. But yeah, and that comes back a little later. She has a really tender moment that made me tear up near the end, but I guess we'll get to that. But it ties in with Ayako, which we didn't really touch on because we do get some of her backstory in the first half, where she has a eating disorder. Um, she's throwing up her meals and not eating enough.
I
And
do remember that one. Which girl is that?
her name's Ayako. I mean, basically, she gets like in front of the whole class, like she gets belittled by the teacher, like for being too like gaining too much weight, but she doesn't even look that, and so like she's just very like kind of timid and very impressionable, anxious girl, and she takes it all, internalizes it all, and like she's becomes severely depressed, and she's like puking up all her meals and not eating. And then there's another male teacher who kind of gets concerned and sort of tries to help her without you know just the best way he can. But his whole arc with that, and then I think she has earlier on, she and I kind of have a moment in the bathroom where they're like, she's eyes trying like sees the sign, she's well aware of what's going on.
She's like, I used to be an idol. I recognize this.
Yeah, and so she reaches out to her, and it's not the right time, but then she comes back around and she kind of stabilizes herself. But she's also the one that has the lowest grades in the class. I guess that's all I'll say, because at the end we get to that moment. I mean, I guess we could just say it. I don't know, but we'll wait.
Yeah, I don't like episodes 1 through 6 are so long ago that I watched them that I don't even remember which character that is.
Oh, she's
apparently something comes up later that whatever that is, I'll then know who it is.
Yes,
probably.
Yes, once you'll know. She's like got the short blue hair and she's really sweet and quiet.
All right, yeah, the mousy one.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about then. Yeah, but if we're going in episodic order, I mean, we're not really. We're just kind of jumping around and grabbing onto little
big chunks.
Yeah. So then there's the sports festival, which you started to talk about, and I interrupted you. And
I jumped the gun.
So the sports festival, George, what happens there?
Oh yes, I believe it's like happens like once every 10 years, like every decade they do it, and so they get, because we kind of learn. I guess they're not students, right? Because they're like there's the summer, winter, autumn, spring, and they're like these different factions or whatever you want to call it of the actual troop. Once you graduate and you hopefully become part of it.
Right.
They all kind of compete, but then there's a fifth division that is sort of the elders. They're not that old, but they're like beyond their prime, I guess, of as far as the troop is concerned.
Yeah, and also like I think they're also like support personnel and stuff like that. Not
they
necessarily.
Like help out.
Yeah, not necessarily actors, but I don't know.
I think they at least like the couple, the two leads used to be actors, because because that comes up. But yeah, they kind of team up with the first year students, or maybe the second year too, just the students in general. I'm not sure. Our characters are in the first year.
Yeah, everything we see is from the perspective of first year, pretty much. So
yeah, and so they they kind of, there's episodes of them practicing, doing all this stuff, and certain things come up there. There's the twins, which we haven't talked about. Chika and Chiaki. They're both these two cute red-haired twins, and yeah, I mean there's this whole like mix-up of where one of them recognizes. I mean, I think they both do, but they recognize one of these older ladies who used to act, and they really liked her, and so one of them goes up to her and kind of gushes about her and says how she was Juliet and their little class thing they did, and then later on that same woman thinks she's talking to that same person, is going to reach out to her to kind of needs to tell her something to relay.
She needs help with something,
and she can't remember her name, so she's like, oh, Juliet.
The girl that I talked to earlier that played Juliet.
But unbeknownst to her, this other twin, which is not the same person, has and we kind of glazed over that, but she has this sort of pent up feelings about how she also wanted to be Juliet, but she held, her sister jumped on it, and she was just too timid or didn't speak up, and she feels kind of I don't know, feels less than, I suppose. And then we learn that when they got in this year, it wasn't the first time that one of them had been accepted. Her other sister had been accepted the year prior,
right?
And it devastated. I think I wrote down, Chiaki. Chiaki's the one that didn't get in the first time, and Chika did. But then and she was devastated by that. But Chika ends up waiting, kind of sacrificing, a year for her to try to get in again, and she does. So they go through this whole thing of where they have some unchecked emotional issues going on, but it's
sibling rivalry.
Yeah, essentially.
Sort of, yeah.
But then they through all that they come back together and everything's good. But I guess also, I mean, the only other thing during the sports festival that I can think of is at last minute, one of the runners are doing like a relay race, and so I think it's for.
Is it the summer troop?
Is it summer? Yeah, I think it is summer.
I think it was the summer troop.
And so they need someone to fill in.
One of them becomes sick, and they need a fill in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they go and they ask the what are they called? The elder people again?
I wish I would have wrote it down. Yeah, they have like a name. But yeah, we'll go with elders.
You said it like 3 times already.
I don't know if it's the right thing. I don't remember what I was saying.
No, you said the right thing. I just can't.
Superiors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, they go to the superiors and say, "Hey, one of the superiors should run on the relay team with us." And they're like, "Nah, why don't you have one of the first years do it or something?" Basically.
Yeah.
And then I forget why, but one of the superiors is the one who decides which of the first years should do it, and she picks Sarasa. Because we find out later is because Sarasa recognized, Sarasa told this woman that she saw this play with her grandmother a long time ago and really liked the actress who played whoever it was.
Yeah, Lady Oscar in the Rose of Versailles. Yeah.
Right. And little does Sarasa know that she's talking to the actress who played.
Which I love that so much. It's so great.
So then this actress says, yeah, she said she really liked my performance in this, and she didn't even know that she was, talking to the person who made that performance.
Yeah.
So,
she was
that's why she picks her to be the replacement in this relay race, and then the sports festival starts, and then there's the relay race, and Sarasa runs in it, and stuff happens there. I don't know where we're at on this.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I mean, the reason I brought it up is because there's a point where Sarasa's picked, and then this girl Hijiri, who is Ai's mentor in the second year students, but she loathes Sarasa. She drives her up a wall, and so when she hears this, she's livid, and she, in her very passive aggressive way, is sort of like telling her that that she should try to remain invisible and like not make an impression. And she's like, well, how do I do that? Like, well, don't be you. And it sends like Sarasa in this like tailspin. And even at one point, Ai remarks that like, man, she just takes everything so literally. Like when she gets it in her, once somebody like, cements something in her head, she can't think, she just becomes consumed by it, even though usually she's just like, bouncing along like, free as can be. So yeah, she kind of goes into a tailspin, and she ends up needing a pep talk like right before it's about to happen. And she gets one from her mentor, and I thought it was really sweet, Risa. But then during that, I forget his name, but I wrote it down, but he's like the lead of the winter or one of the other ones. He's like a pretty... Oh, no, it's not I kept thinking it was a boy. It's a girl.
I keep saying he, but...
I know. It really got me. Like, he's a good... what is it?
Otoko Yaku.
Otoko Yaku. Very, very convincing. Yes, I'm sorry. She comes in and I think it has like a bouquet of roses that was, passed along to give to Sarasa. And yeah, I don't know. It was just really sweet. Moment.
Yeah, and the roses came from, anyway, that's a whole side story that we haven't really talked about.
Yeah.
I guess, but, whatever.
Yeah, which we did touch a little bit on with the guy that might be her dad. And
right.
Yeah, so it's coming from there.
But it's not him. It's his friend or something, right?
Oh, I thought that was the same guy. That's a different guy?
There's 2 different guys.
Oh, okay.
Right?
See, I thought you were referring to him.
There's the one who is probably her dad, and then there's his friend who is like a strange fanboy of Sarasa for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, that's who I was referring to earlier, but that's not the guy that.
But he's not the
dad.
one who has the talk with him.
Oh, I thought it was.
Oh.
See, I guess that's where I got confused.
Right. We're confused.
But okay, if that's a different person, that makes sense. I'm just confused on.
Anyway, so she gets some roses, and she basically this senpai of hers, of Sarasa's, kind of says, yeah, well, when we're out there acting, I'm playing the character that I'm playing. But when I'm not out there acting, I'm playing the character of an actress, because there's the real me, and then there's the person that, like, the public sees me as, and I have to play that character.
Yes.
And so you just have to go out there and, play the character that is you, basically.
Yeah.
So not necessarily just be yourself, because that's what Sarasa's having a problem with.
Yeah.
But just go out there and be the character that you think the audience wants you to be, essentially.
Yes. And thank you so much. Yeah, because I sort of lost track of where I was going with that. That was exactly it. I didn't put that in my notes. That's my bad. But yeah, I love that sentiment of, because I can apply to so many people that, I mean, I struggle with this too, of like, feeling vulnerable and not knowing how to be. But then it sets off this whole comedic thing of like, Sarasa's like, all right, I got to figure out which character I want to be. And
that's what I was going to say. George, will you describe to us the character that Sarasa decides to portray?
She just wants to have large breasts.
Yep.
And it's really funny too, because
was it E-cups or something
like
that?
Is that what she said? Yeah. I'm playing my character with E-cups. And I'm like, and it's so funny too, because it's already been established that she's a fan of anime and into like kind of like more mecha, or like what's that? I can't ever think of that dang term. But, like Super Sentai and Ultraman, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And so it totally makes sense that like that she would, being like a nerd and also an airhead, would be like, yeah, I want to be a girl with E-cups. That's real.
That's the character that I'm going to play. I'm going to play me, except with E-cups. It's really the only difference.
And so when they're about to start.
But it works for her.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And it's funny too, there's like little details, like when she's about to start the race, they're like, is she doing the character? And then they look closely and like she's like pulling her
shrugging her
arms
shoulders forward to hide the size of her breasts. Which she doesn't have,
funny.
But
yeah. She has very small breasts, I guess, for the record. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Didn't know we had to comment on that, but
well, I mean, she says it, and that's why. What she wants to be, is an E-cup. I don't know. Anyway,
but yeah, and then I guess just to put a cap on this sports festival, she's the last person in the relay, and so when she's about to get the baton, that other senpai is, I forget what happens, is like his person like trips and the baton goes up in the air, and so he starts running, or she starts running across the lanes and then like runs into Sarasa. Is that what happens?
Yeah, so Sarasa and this not older generation, but I don't know what to call them.
It's like a bona fide actor, right? Like she's
she's one of the young, but one of the young actresses, not the superiors, but I don't know. Anyway, the one who gave her a pep talk.
Yeah.
She is racing. They're both on the 7th leg of the relay, and they happen to be right next to each other. But yes, the person who's supposed to be handing it off to this actress that gave her the advice, she trips right at the last second, and
it goes flying.
It goes flying in the air. So then she goes running after it to try and catch it, and ends up running into Sarasa, and I think they both fall down.
Yeah, then they both just biff it. Yeah, it's this whole like a football game.
And then Sarasa's like, well, what should I do? What would my character do? Would she? And then she thinks about the thing about, giving the audience what they want. And,
oh, yes. Yeah. Considering the audience. Yeah.
Right. And by the time she finally makes a decision on what to do about that, this other girl has already gotten up and is helping Sarasa up, and they both run hand in hand, right?
Yes, but I think because the way I took it is that Sarasa's thinking in her head, like you said, what to do, what will the character do, and then I think she does decide, because like once that other girl is getting up, she looks at Sarasa, who's on the ground, and she can see that she's just like staring at her, and so I took that to mean that she was giving her a cue to like, oh, you can help me up, and then you'll be like,
I see,
the helpful senpai or whatever, like basically like creating this narrative of like, oh my god, she's so sweet, and they're not on the same team and whatnot.
That is how it turned out. I guess what I thought Sarasa was thinking at the time was, should I keep running or should I, help her up?
Yeah.
But then as it turns out, yeah, she was in fact waiting for her senpai to get up and help her up so that she can be the courageous hero.
Yeah, which is very, very cool. And especially for her, it's like a good character moment because, as we said earlier, she's always just like jumping the gun, she's not thinking before she acts. And so it's like huge that she's actually like, having an internal dialogue about what to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this comes on the heels, like, did we already have the announcement about that? No, I guess that's later.
Oh, about the performance?
Yeah. About
the comes after.
Yeah. Okay. I guess maybe it's in relation to her previous, because their class previously did this Romeo and Juliet thing, right?
Yeah, they basically were whining about like not being able to act, and so the teacher allowed them to do like a scene from Romeo and Juliet, and she got, she did well, she thought, but she was basically just emulating this other performance.
Right, she was just like straight up copying someone else's performance. Anyway, and so I think it relates back to some advice that she got on that topic from that audition or whatever, or that performance. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you're dead on. And it's great too. Like it's all set up, and I don't know. I love this character stuff where it's just so simple, but so many shows fail to like not only set up but pay off these kind of things. And so yeah, shout out to Kageki Shojo. But yeah, then after that we go to we're back in school, and there's like a rumor that because there's going to be a graduation ceremony for the second years, they're getting ready to graduate, and there's a rumor that the first years are going to be able to do like a performance, but they don't know for sure. It never happened before, I guess. It's unprecedented.
It says it's the cultural festival here in the
instead of
in the synopsis. I mean, I know like graduation is coming up as well, but I don't think it's part of the graduation ceremony, but like cultural festival.
No, I thought it was
before graduation or something.
Maybe it's
I don't know.
Part of like, it's like festivities of that last week or something, or
something like that.
Yeah. I kind of lumped it all into one in my head. But yeah, so the whole point of this is that they had already done, like we said, they already done that scene of Romeo and Juliet, and they had they had split when they did it. Then they split into groups in the class, and then they all kind of like, hashed it out of who's going to be who. It's either Romeo, Juliet, Tybalt, or the nurses.
The nurse, Juliet's nurse.
Yeah, or Juliet's nurse. Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting because we already kind of got a taste of them, these main characters playing these certain roles, and there was stuff all tied into that. And so now they have a decision. They don't have to be forced into one. They get to pick, like, who do you want to audition for? Only 4 people are going to get it.
Right. Yeah. This episode is called 4 of 40, which the teacher writes on the chalkboard.
4 of 40.
Because, there are, I guess, 40 students, and there are 4 roles.
Yes.
So rather than before where they all split off into groups of 4 and each person, they had to argue over which role they wanted to play within their group of 4. Now they have to fight for one of those 4 positions out of the 40 students who are going to be auditioning.
Yeah. So it's like way more competitive, but then it's also kind of freed up because it's like if you wanted to go for the nurse, that's probably not going to be a highly contested role. Not that anyone does, but it was interesting, like just watching it, thinking about that. But
I thought it was strange. Like, okay, so the way this plays out, it's later. It's not until the next episode or whatever. But
yeah,
the way it plays out, actually, it's not until the final episode is what I'm going to spoil some final episode stuff, I guess. But
go for it.
So all of the students write down who they wanted to audition for, right? And so they are all auditioning sort of with each other. Each audition session has 4 people, right? You've got one playing the nurse, one playing Romeo, one playing Juliet, and one playing Tybalt.
Yeah. And they're all kind of just facing forward. They're not actually like, staged, it's just kind of like doing your lines.
But the math on this is what I'm stuck on is the math, right?
Oh yeah, because we don't, I see where it goes.
So there's 4 of them in each group. So there should be, optimally there would be 10 groups, right? We don't see all of them, of course, but that's not exactly where I'm going either, because in the last group, I guess it's either the last group or the last one that we see anyway, the teacher plays one of the roles because they didn't have enough people auditioning for that particular role, which seems absurd because the role that he plays is Romeo. You would think
And
all of the otaku yaku. Why do I have so much trouble with that word? Anyway, you would think all of them would be going for Romeo, and I mean, quite a few have gone for Tybalt or whatever, I suppose, and there should be a lot less for the nurse as well. So, like, they would have had to have people subbing in for the nurse all the time, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't make sense. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't math out because
yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
440. If it was perfect, there would be 10 groups, but for some reason in this one, the teacher subs in for one of the roles, which is the more important role, which you would think more people would audition for if you're an otaku. Why can't I say it?
If you're a okonomiyaki, otokoyaku,
otaku.
Otaku?
Right?
No,
No.
it was otoko.
No, otoko.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Takoyaki?
Yeah, I know, right? That particular word, otokoyaku.
Yeah, I
'Cause
think
I always
because
want to
that,
say otoku, but that's
yeah,
not it.
because that U is coming at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
It's like,
It
yeah,
just messes me up.
I get that. I mean, I think I totally agree with you. I mean, I guess we're about to get to that.
The math doesn't make sense. That's all I'm saying. And we see how many do we see? Like 3 or 4 sessions?
See 4.
4.
I
Okay.
think so. So I mean, to preface this though, it's like Sarasa is conflicted. Sarasa and I are both conflicted on what to do. Sarasa is trying to decide between doing Romeo or doing Tybalt, which Tybalt is the one that she did previously, and she, was negatively critiqued about that. She copied the performance and she didn't really like make it her own.
Right.
And so she keeps thinking like, oh, well, it'll probably be easier to do Romeo then. But then she ends up going, deciding against that and being like, no, I should challenge myself. I should go for it. And
partly on Ai's advice. Like she talks to Ai about this a little bit. And
well, I was kind of going the other way. She's like, oh, I think Romeo is like more of a simple character. And she's like, what, are you saying I'm simple?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I guess I not the way she was trying to make it go, but it definitely helped her decide. And then Ai herself is between the nurse and Juliet and isn't sure what to do, but she ends up going for Juliet, which is, yeah.
Yeah, and her main conflict is that she, like many of the girls in the class, I think, thinks she knows who is going to get the Juliet role because there was one of the performers when they did their group exercises before that was just like outstanding, basically, right? And she's like, well, why would I even try for that when I know that this person's probably going to get it?
But her mentor,
Hijiri, different conflicts, but yeah,
her mentor is like, no, you're a JPX, like ex JPX idol, like our fans like already know who you are and want you to have these kind of roles, like, so you should just shut up and go for it.
Yeah.
which is a good argument. I mean, it's like you already have name recognition, so you might as well give it a shot.
You were born with this natural beauty and whatnot. She says,
yeah, oh
I
yes,
think, right?
yeah, butters her up.
All of that stuff. Yeah.
And then the other girls struggle too, like, that's where the twin kind of thing comes into there, and so they both end up going for Juliet. So they they kind of like bury the hatchet with that. And then this Ayako girl ends up not sure what to do either, but she ends up deciding to try out for Juliet as well, even though she's very shy and anxious and has the worst grades in the class. She goes for it. And then we have some other people, like we didn't mention Sawa, who is the class rep. But she's kind of a nerd about this theater troupe stuff.
Yeah. Super fan.
Yeah. And but she ends up going for Tybalt, going against Sarasa with that.
But she's the one that everyone thought was the best Tybalt of the previous exercise as well, right?
Yeah. So she thought it was just she was going to clinch that.
She thought she was a shoo-in.
Yeah. And I think that's mostly it of like who was going for what. But yeah, then we actually do the thing, and it's kind of interesting. Like,
we have an episode full of just them auditioning, and I think we see all of them except for Sarasa's, right? In that,
I think so. Yeah, they save hers for the end.
Oh yeah, because they tease it where the end of the episode 12, the teacher says, "Oh, well, since we're short, I'm going to be playing the role of Romeo," and like, that's like the bombshell drop that they left the show on. And speaking of episode 12, this is where I noticed end credits. So it's the same song most of the time for the end credits, right? But they change which voice actresses are doing the voices for them. And during episode 12, I specifically noticed it. But from what I read, it had been done a few times before. But but originally, yeah, it was the song that we know, the version of that song that we know that we've been listening to is Sarasa and I doing it. But in this episode, it was the voice was just different enough that I was like, wait a second. And then I noticed that the images in the end credits were different as well.
Oh, okay.
It was like focusing on different characters. And I forget exactly which girls it was in this episode, but yeah, apparently it's a thing that they've done a few times where they change the voice actresses, and they also change the end credits so that it features those characters instead of Sarasa and I.
Wow.
Anyway,
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I did not pick up on that. That's like a nice Easter egg there.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different versions of our favorite song.
Cool. I would like to. I do like that song. It's grown on. Like you liked it immediately, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And the more times I've heard it, it's grown on me.
I mean, we don't have time in this episode, but we hopefully at some point we'll be doing our favorite songs. But spoiler alert, this is my favorite song.
There you go. Yeah, we'll definitely be. We did like our own like a little awards thing for last season. We'll definitely do that again.
It's so good, that end theme. And yeah, it's anyway. So we're nearly to the final episode.
Yes.
We're only an hour into this episode.
I know. I do like this show, so I don't feel bad going long. But
I feel bad for Fruits Basket. It's gonna get this short anyway.
No, it'll get its due. We might have to take a break.
Yeah,
and come back. But yes. So I mean, long story short, I mean, they do the performances. I's Juliet is quite good. She well, there was this moment that I really liked where she's about to start her performance, like Romeo's doing his thing, and she's she knows it's coming up, and she's kind of like drawing a blank. She's like not sure where to draw from, what is love? I've never been in love. And then she's kind of going through her mind, and then she ends up landing on Sarasa, and it's an unlikely source. She hasn't really considered how much she already means to her. But that's where she ends up drawing her performance from emotionally, is from her relationship with Sarasa, which is a nice a nice thing to end this season on, towards the end. But I also think it's cool because there was a point where like we didn't talk about it, but when Sarasa was freaking out about the sports festival thing and having to like sub in and how to act and do all that before she gets the advice from her senpais. I's giving her advice, and you touched on that earlier where we were kind of jumping ahead at that point, but she kind of relays this advice that her mom had given her when she was young that she remembered because her mom was an actress, and so like she's like parsing out this professional advice she got from her mom, even though she has a tumultuous relationship with her, and she passes it on to Sarasa. But then cut to her getting ready, kind of panicking in her head about her Juliet audition. She's kind of thinking about like, I don't even know how to, take my own advice. I don't even know how to internalize that. Like I so easily gave it to Sarasa. But then as she's, going through all that, she realizes that, she doesn't know what real true love is like, but that's the closest thing she's had is her relationship with Sarasa. So I thought that was really sweet that she, I don't know, it was a whole thing in her mind where she had to like get to that point, and it felt like a kind of landmark thing for her, like where she was like, oh, I think I actually like connected something, and I feel feelings.
Yeah, I guess I forgot to mention at that point the mother advice. One thing that I wanted to say about that, because I found it somewhat amusing, was Sarasa asks her, "Oh, who told you that?" And she said, "Oh, just some actress."
Yeah.
She doesn't say it's her mom or anything, just, "Oh, some actress."
I talked to many of them.
Yeah.
It's no biggie. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I remember that, but that didn't stand out to me.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just thought, I was amused by it. I was like, oh, it's just some actress.
And that's another great example of something that's like legitimately funny, but like also isn't detracting, you know, it totally fits into, you know, it's funnier because we know what their relationship is actually like.
Right.
Oh, that's great. And then who else? I mean, we see Ayako, the shy girl, go, and she does pretty good. And then we see Sawa and all these people.
She does pretty good. What are you talking
No, she
about?
does great. She does great. I'm trying to remember specifics. I'm like, I don't. What do we need to say about this?
Well, I mean, so Ayako, this is where we get her backstory. Is while she's auditioning. The same
that's
thing,
true.
the
That's
same
true.
thing that I did before, where she's sort of in her own head waiting for her line to come.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
This is where Ayako's backstory comes up. I'll let you run with it.
Yes, her backstory.
Do you want me to do it?
I'm trying to remember. I forget.
Yeah, so it's sort of the same thing that I was having issues with, the whole love thing, you know, like, and she's, thinking back to when she was in school, high school before this, or maybe it was middle school. I actually don't remember.
Probably middle school.
And there's this girl in her class who, dates all of the boys and only dates them for like 2 weeks and then dumps them or whatever, who also happens to be Ayako's, I guess, best friend, it seems like.
Yeah.
Or at least a very close friend. And there's a boy that Ayako likes, but then he also like tries to date this girl who seems like would date anyone, right? And she turns him down. And so then he goes and he's talking to Ayako about how, heartbroken he is about this. This girl who will date anyone. And anyway.
Yeah, he's like whining to this other cute girl that
right.
Which they are kind of like buddies. So maybe in his mind he just sees it as like we're just friends or whatever. But
that's how he sees it. But
yeah,
Ayako has a crush on him. He She totally just gets friend zoned by him because he says, "Oh, I hope we can be friends forever," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so then Ayako is telling her friend who had turned him down about this, and she says, "Oh, well, I know that you like him, and so that's why I turned him down."
Yeah.
And then Ayako's telling her about how she got friend zoned, saying, "Oh, I wish we could be friends forever."
Yeah.
And then this girl says basically the same line. "Well, I hope that you and I can be friends forever too. I mean, I would be your boyfriend right now if I could," or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's at that moment while she's thinking about this during this audition, right? that Ayako realizes that was her friend basically confessing love for her.
Yeah. Yeah. She didn't get it at the time.
Yeah. Anyway, and it's just the way that it's like woven underneath within the story and stuff. And it's like, it's this whole huge character arc.
Yeah.
In like, I mean, the timeline of the show, it's probably like a few seconds or something. Screen time, it's, like 5 minutes or something, but there's such depth in that short time that we're giving. And that's, that demonstrates what's really great about this show, I think, is that bit there. And there's a lot of other things like that, but that one is like, just something that maybe it's recency bias in my mind, but like, that's something I can firmly put my finger on and say that they do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they set that all. Yeah. And you're right. It's like right before it's necessary. So it's like, oh, like you just kind of like shove that in there, but yeah, it's all very plausible and, emotionally like impactful.
Yeah, and I mean that's sort of the same thing. Like, well, Kaoru gets her own like full episode basically about her backstory or whatever, but it's like just this. Yeah, it's sort of the same thing except like a much more compressed version of it, right?
Yeah, it's just in her head in the moment, and then she all of a sudden has the motivation she needs, but then we also like know her more and care. I love that.
Right.
I'm always asking like.
And that's where Ayako draws like this idea of love from.
Yeah.
And, helps her really nail this audition that she's doing. Yeah.
Which is it's kind of funny because it's like an unrequited love that she's realizing was love, that she didn't know that.
Right.
She
yeah.
didn't get it at the time.
Well, because I guess, so Ai's problem is she's never loved someone, she thinks. But Ayako is sort of the opposite. She's never felt like anyone has loved her, right? And then it's this realization that, that person loved me. Maybe there are other people that love me and I just haven't realized it, And that's where she draws it from. That's
great.
Yeah, it's It's a really great show, you guys. If you haven't got it, we've been talking about it for so long now. It's a
All right.
really great show.
Well, let's wrap up
Anyway,
this,
yes.
this plot here, and then we can give overall thoughts. But so long story short, like you said, the last performance is features Sarasa as Tybalt, and the teacher steps in, which I really like him. We don't have time to go into him, but he's a good character as well. Not that we have his backstory or anything, but I dig him. But yeah, he steps in, and I feel like the math doesn't make sense, but I feel like it's because like we said earlier, like a lot of these teachers see something in Sarasa, and I think he's intentionally trying to pull that out of her and like make her sweat a little bit, or like because once he goes on there and he's doing his thing, like everyone in the class is like internally just being like, oh my god, he's so good, like
holy crap, this is a professional actor. We are nowhere near this level, basically, is what they're all thinking.
And it's like it's just flowing out of him, and
it's also what all of the other people that are up there auditioning next to him are thinking. Like they're just pooping on themselves, like, oh, wow, he's so good. There's and
in this audition, Romeo's the one that kicks it off, among the four of them. So it's like, it seemed totally intentional, where it's like, I'm gonna like,
he's pushing
derail all of you, but
right.
I feel like Sarasa, I forget who else was up there with her at that time, but I feel like it was largely for her.
It was mostly for Sarasa, I think. It was supposed to be sort of the bombshell that shakes Sarasa and makes her find what she needs to find to
play that
bring
part.
out her performance. Oh yeah, one of the other students who was auditioning started yelling her lines, right?
Oh yeah, right after him. She was just like, ah,
because he had like that projection that you have to have for like stage voice and stuff, so she was trying to be on the same level as him without the experience or talent to do so,
and just like yelling,
just screaming, like that kid from I don't know,
Black Clover.
I was going to say Bleach because that's probably also true, but
no, he doesn't scream.
Bleach.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
mean, I'm sure he does it. Not like Black Clover.
Not constantly. Okay. I mean, I guess Gon screams most of his lines.
I guess that's true. He's like a little kid.
Bakugo screams every one of his lines.
That's true. Not a main character, but I mean, not the main character, but
But I mean, Midoriya screams a lot of his lines too. Although I don't know. Anyway, So
what I'm trying to remember, because I know like we touched on all these people and like where they drew their performance from, but I'm trying to remember with Sarasa, like what happened in her head at that moment. Something did.
Yep, probably so. Refer to the notes.
I know, like I wrote down about and her perspective, but I was like, I didn't write about Sarasa.
So in the Wikipedia synopsis, it says Sarasa draws a bit of wisdom from what Dai Dai Sensei told her about execution of voice.
Oh,
does that help you at all?
Yeah, she was thinking back to I assume one of Akia's family members, like dad or something, where he was like she.
Oh yeah, that's the whole yelling thing, right?
Yeah,
because we see this after we see this other girl having done the yelling.
Or while she's doing it, maybe. Yeah,
his name is Ando Sensei, apparently. So after, or while she's doing it, possibly, yes, she's thinking back to when she was a child and she was doing the kabuki training stuff, and she is just reciting some lines, and she runs into, not the next generation up, but the generation above that, like the big guy, the head guy, the main kabuki guy, right? He's like basically shouting lines back at her.
Yeah, he hears her like from the other room.
Yeah, from the other room. And then she comes into the room and like she's just basically screaming her lines at him because he has that voice, that projection, like he's doing
professional.
He's doing the voice, right? And she's trying to imitate that as a child and just ends up like yelling and screaming all of her lines. And then he offers her some advice in regards to that. And then she sort of internalizes that. And
that's what she uses to.
That's what she uses,
Yeah. So good, we remembered.
So there was backstory there.
I knew there was something. I was like, something happened.
I'm glad you recognized. When I read that sentence, I was like, I don't know who that is. But apparently his name is Dai Dai Sensei.
Okay, Dai Sensei.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then so they do that, and then we cut to after that. I feel like they don't get the results right away, and they're kind of going nuts.
Yeah, I think he said that the teacher said, "Oh, they'll be posted, this Wednesday at 3:00
he
or
finally
something
announces
like
it.
that."
Yeah, and so after class, I and Sarasa are all excited to go check it out, but then Hijiri pops her head in.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Apparently Risa got sick.
hmm.
And so Hijiri decided to go and inspect and make sure that Sarasa's work was up to par, because all the first years have to, do some work for cleaning the school and stuff like that. And the second years supervise them basically. So Risa normally supervises Sarasa, but yeah, Hijiri, is that it? Hijiri?
Yeah, Hijiri. So
yeah. She comes to Sarasa and says, "Hey, I went and inspected those floors you were supposed to clean, and you didn't do a very good job, basically. Yeah. So you need to go and clean them right now." And this is just as they're getting out of class to go and look at the results.
And they're they're literally, "Can we go look at the results?"
And Hijiri knows what she's doing.
Yes.
I
mean, yeah. And she physically, she's not that she just tells her to go do that. She physically goes there with her and oversees her doing it so that she
makes sure she does it right.
And clearly she likely knows something about those results, but so
Sarasa and I had already said, "Oh, should we go and look at the results together?" And and then that's when Hijiri shows up.
So I'm assuming Hijiri had already seen the results, even though she says later she hadn't. I don't believe her.
I think she lied.
Yeah.
Because she says, maybe she doesn't say it out loud, but she monologues something later that indicates that she had seen the results, I think, right?
Yeah
I think so.
But then being a good friend, I waits in the classroom for although I guess if she was a really good friend, she would have went and helped her, but maybe Hijiri wouldn't allow that. It's like Sarasa has to do it.
Yeah, no.
But so. What?
I don't think it would have been allowed. No.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Had Hijiri not accompanied her there, I'm sure I could have just went and helped her. But waits.
Had Hijiri not accompanied her there,
they wouldn't.
Sarasa could have just gone and said, "Looks good to me," and left. But,
Yep. So true. But yeah, I waits for her in the classroom and doesn't go look. And then finally, it's dark at this point, and she sees Hijiri leaving, and she rushes down, and Ai's already looking at him. I'm jumping ahead of there's stuff that happens in between that.
Sarasa's already looking
at it, yeah, and she's just kind of dumbfounded because she got the part, and she's it was a cute moment, because I was rushing down there, and she's like, "I want to congratulate her," and I couldn't do that before when I forget, I don't know if it was a part she got before, there was something that happened where I didn't congratulate her, and she was like, "I want to make right for that," but then she comes.
I do remember what you're talking about. I do remember her saying that, but I don't remember what it was either.
Yeah, I can't think.
I doubt it's in my notes.
Yeah. But yeah, she runs down there expecting to see Sarasa just jumping up and down and all excited, but she's just quietly staring at it and taking it all in. And it's oh, that's another moment for her character where it's she's she's maturing, she's not as juvenile-y. Is that a word? Just she's not just jumping at life in this juvenile way. She's kind of becoming more of an adult. There's one other moment I want to talk about with these results. Did you have anything else other than that?
No, you can continue with that. I think that's essentially where I was going to go as well.
So yeah, we talked about Ayako before. She's the quiet one that lands the Juliet part. We talked about her, where she got her motivation from, and totally works. And in that moment, there's a group of this is before it's dark, right? Before Sarasa sees that she got the part, but all these girls are gathered around looking at it, and Ayako sees that she got it. She's like, "Oh my god!" And then and Kaoru's right there too, and she didn't get the
Romeo.
Part. Yeah, Romeo, the part she wanted,
right?
And so But in that moment, Ayako sees that she got it. And she's like, "Oh my god!" And then you hear some other girls, like we don't know who says it, but it's like in that area, and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe she got it!" Like there must, her parents must, there must be some nepotism or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the moment that really got me. Like Kaoru, like she didn't get her part, but like she like openly like stands up for her, and it's like, who said that? Like her parents own a bakery. Like if anyone should have got it because of their parents, it's me. Like,
Right.
and that's not the case. And then Ayako's like, "Oh my god, thank you," and she's like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
But
And well, I mean, it's more than just that about the bakery thing. Like she's defending her,
yeah, like it's her talent.
having done such a good job
Yeah,
with the audition, and like she deserved it. She got it because she deserved it, and
yes,
and she actually did deserve it. Anyway,
yeah,
is essentially what what's her name again?
Kaoru.
Kaoru. Yeah, that's right. Kaoru.
Yeah.
That's what Kaoru is saying.
Yeah, she's like, if there was nepotism, it'd be all over here. But
Right.
yeah, she totally deserved that. And but then Ayako's like thanking her, and she's like, whatever, leave me alone. I'm sad. So it's like that's so cool because she's not just like just kissing her ass or just being entirely complimentary. She's just like that's just it's a fact. Like you did really well, and like you deserve that. And I wasn't able to do well enough. And then the other girl is Sawa, the class rep. She's going for Tybalt, and she loses. She's the one that did really good initially that you pointed out, but she loses to Sarasa. And there's this whole thing about where she, confronts the male teacher about it, and he's like,
I don't think confronts, but
well, yeah, he invites.
He says, if you have any questions about why you didn't get a role or something like that, feel free to come to my office hours. And
he's
she
like
shows
kind of
up
asking
and
for it.
she shows up and asks him, and she says, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm not trying to say that I should have got it and she shouldn't have got it or anything like that. I'm just wondering, what can you tell me to improve?
Yeah.
And he says, this was probably the tightest margin of anything in all of this, because the way it's done is all the students got to vote for each other. They couldn't vote for themselves, but they got to vote for whoever for the role. But then the teachers also all got to vote as well.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they were the ones that decided who got the roles and who didn't. And he just basically explains, like, it was like a dead draw between your classmates for you and Sarasa.
Yeah.
And it was a dead draw between the teachers for you and Sarasa as well.
Yeah.
And then we had a teacher who showed up late, whose name is here, Ogi Sensei.
Okay.
She showed up late and was essentially given the
like tiebreaker.
Told that she had to choose one of these two. And I forget what her reason was, but I know it was important.
What was it? Fan, not service, but like basically considering like the fangirlness of it, like
fangirl potential.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. Was that there are a lot of female fans of this theater troupe, right? And the way that Sarasa portrayed Tybalt was something that appealed to females more, I guess, is basically what she said.
Yeah, like a little more endearing.
Like Sawa's was bitter and angry and like really good at what it was, but Sarasa's was more about the Tybalt's loss of Juliet, of having lost to Romeo, and like
sorrow.
the romance and romantic sorrow, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, and that's what the ultimate decision was there, like one vote.
And then I love that because she talks, Sawa talks to that teacher, and she tells her that, but then Sawa's takeaway is kind of like, wow, she's really like all of she really cares deeply about how the audience perceives everything. She's kind of a nerd, essentially, is what her takeaway is, but she also is. And so it's kind of a cool moment where she's like, okay, like that's something else to consider is, I guess it is kind of like fan service, essentially. So Tony, would you recommend our listeners watch Kageki Shojo?
Yeah, I think in general, I would say it's something I would recommend. Like it starts off, I mean, it doesn't start off rough. It's not difficult or rocky or anything like that, but it's not like super interesting and exciting. It's just like interesting enough, and then it starts taking its deeper turns
Yeah.
and pulling you in more, and that's like episode 4 or 5 area, I think. It's like if you're like me and you're like, oh, I'll watch 3 episodes and see what I think. I don't know. I guess no. It's okay. So 3 is Ai's backstory, and that is what really, started making me think, oh, this has some deeper levels to it. So within 3 episodes, yeah, I would think that you'll probably be pulled into it if you start watching it. And then, after episode 6, like I say, it's kind of broken into almost 2 acts, right? Like you've got all the intro stuff, and then from episode 6 onward, so 7 onward, we start getting into more actual story, I guess I would say.
Yeah. What kind of sets up the characters, and then we start to kind of, yeah.
But a couple of those are sort of side story things, like, Kaoru's Summer, for example, is, like I say, a side story. It's a really good, like, standalone. It's pretty good by itself.
Yeah.
It helps to have some, backstory on who she is, although we don't have that much anyway. The sports festival was like, whatever. I could have, I would have been fine without it. Like, you could cut those 2 episodes out and I'd be fine. I mean, the bits and pieces need to exist, but you could find a different way to present that without having to do a whole sports festival for 2 episodes. But then beyond that, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's good. It's good overall, I would say. It's not like a great show. It's not like I'm saying everyone's going to love this show, or I run out and recommend it to everyone. But if you like this type of show, you're going to like this show because it's quite good.
And even if it's not typically your type of show, I would say that you could get into it. It's because like you talked about, once you get to Ai's backstory, it's like, holy crap, like there's more to this. And at the time, I enjoyed it, but I was kind of concerned, is this going to go like way edgy, from here on out, and like kind of just pushing buttons and stuff. But it handles this complex and tricky subject matter, like, but I mean, with her backstory specifically, but here and there with others, like with the eating disorder and other kind of stuff that's just like kind of harsh, but it handles it all well. Like, I think it doesn't exploit any of these characters really. It just kind of tries to paint like where they're coming from, and it really sticks to that. And I really appreciate that. Consistent character development is really nice. Like that, all this stuff we were talking about Sarasa just now, I kept thinking like, oh my god, like it all just fits so well. The fact that she didn't know that one superior, was the very actress that she idolizes. And like that she would just pop off with that and have no idea. It's just so very much her, and it's comforting. And I miss these characters. I hope they come back. Like I said before, like you mentioned Kaoru and Ayako comes to mind. Sawa, like all these minor characters that, and Akia, Sarasa's like boyfriend in quotes. I think all these, if we get more seasons, like all these characters are gonna, like, their arcs are going to continue. Like I feel like it's like talking about Kaoru's side story. It's like, yeah, it's like if that's all there was, I guess that's fine. But like I really feel like they're laying the groundwork to revisit that and other things. Like I just feel like
and it does play in a little bit into her audition and stuff for
that's true.
For Romeo. I mean, it's not one of the ones that's really featured or anything, but there's at least a little bit of it. And yeah,
they give you enough to keep you interested in these characters. And yeah, it was good. I think we're probably similar. I gave it a 7 out of 10, but it's pretty solid 7 to me. Like it's not
What did I think of while you were saying that? Oh, episode 12 ending theme. I remembered it's Sawa and Ayako.
Oh, okay.
Because for some reason, while you were going through the list of names, you said both of those names back to back, and that's when I realized, that's who it is.
Nice.
That's who it was in episode 12. Sawa's sort of husky, deep voice sounded very different from the other version that you and I have heard, and that was the one that like I noticed. But anyway, I already talked about it enough.
We will revisit that song, listeners, in the coming weeks.
I'm guessing all of the versions are on like Spotify,
probably.
But I don't know. I'll have to look.
We'll have to listen to them. weigh in on them. But yeah, I think that's it. I mean, this I didn't expect for us to go this long, but clearly, because it's like one season, but it's not completed. We're about to
Right.
talk about a show that is completed.
Right. But it has that depth to it.
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say about liking this kind of show. You may be right, even if you don't like this kind of show, but like there's layers of what kind of show this is, I guess.
Mm,
I mean, if you watch Dragon Ball Z and Naruto and I don't know those things,
mm.
this may be like so outside the wheelhouse of shows that you're going to watch that I definitely wouldn't recommend it for you. But yeah, if you like drama, character-driven drama, then yeah, it's pretty solid here.
Yeah, and just good character writing, and yeah, in general. I mean, yeah, there's no explosions or
Yeah,
really adventures
it's no battle
of any
scenes.
kind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's good stuff. Like it's just it goes down smooth for me. Like, we
Mm,
had I had to catch up on this to talk about it, and it was not a chore at all, and that's
mm.
kind of shows I want to cover on here.
Yeah, I mean, the only chore involved with watching this is getting through the nightmare that is the Funimation app.
Yes, which yeah, no fault of Kageki's.
No,
But yeah, hopefully Funimation and Crunchyroll will combine forces and make all this easier on us.
the
But
ultimate anime app. Yeah.
but we were able to watch it, so that's good.
Yep, managed to get through it.
All right,
Only had to, spend $50 on a new device, but
worth it.
yeah, I guess I didn't have to. You spent $50 on a new device for me, so yeah, it was worth it for me to spend nothing on it.
Glad to hear it. I'm glad you're using it too.
And so that's pretty much wraps up Kageki Shojo. I guess we're going to talk about Fruits Basket now. We went really long on that.
We did. Neither of us thought or intended to go that long.
I honestly I wouldn't have guessed. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, me neither.
But I mean, so the final season of Fruits Basket, like there's a lot of heavy stuff that happens. I say a lot, but there's heavy stuff that happens, but not a lot of it, I guess. Like there's just, it's a lot of wrapping things up, and yeah, we could probably get through this pretty quick, I imagine.
Yeah, and if you're not already aware, we already covered, this is Fruits Basket 2019. We already covered the first and second seasons in previous episodes in the last month or two. So if you want to check those out. But yeah, this one we're going to just dive right in, talk about the final season. Very beloved and anticipated to get the finale of Fruits Basket in anime form after all this time.
Yeah. And so it starts off, where we left off from last season with Toru sort of reacting to the information Kureno has just sort of dropped on her, and how he can't be with Arisa because of his attachment to Akito. But
Yeah.
that's like the first episode. There's really not much that happens in that first episode. It's mostly just that, like, oh yeah, this is all the stuff we left open at the end of last season that we're gonna,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap it all up.
Well, it's
now
like for Toru, it's like not just that that Kureno is emotionally unavailable for, her friend, but that the curse has been broken with him,
Mhm.
and that Akito is a female, is not a man. That
Right,
she
right.
was led to believe.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was the big bombshell.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think all three of those things, she's just like railing, and
Right.
yeah, she goes over to Hanajima's house and gets comforted with her besties. But yeah, not much story wise happens.
There's gonna be a third one. I know there is.
Bless you, good sir.
All right, and then after that we've got sort of some revelation of Shigere's relationship with Akito, a little backstory on Shigure and Akito from when they were kids.
Yeah.
And we get to see Akito back before she sucked completely.
Yeah, as a child, right? But
Yeah.
But then we also enter Akito's mom, who had not. Well, I guess we
Right.
had seen her, but we didn't know.
Right.
That's who it was.
Yeah, it's funny when this happened. I remember saying, "Oh yeah, there's like all those other people at the Soma that family compound, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Like there's this older generation that like we haven't seen much of, and one of them's probably important and sort of maybe dictating things for Akito, but that's not the case.
Yeah, but still an important character.
Right. Yeah.
But her name is Ren, and we learn so much, but we learn that Shugure has some feelings for Akito, even though I don't know. That's why I got confused about, and we'll touch on this later, but because it's like they show that scene when Akito is really young, and of course, Shigure is younger, but he's not a child. But
yeah, he's a little older.
Yeah, and Akito is just kind of looking for comfort or just validation. It's just like, do you love me, or
Right.
how much, how deep is your love? And
how deep is your love? How deep is your love? Akito wants to know.
and and I forget exactly what he says, but he says, I'll always love you. It's kind of like a more the love of a family member, or a parent, or it's something. It's not explicitly
right.
more than that, but yeah, it is. But I guess that's not quite revealed here. But is it kind of teased? I don't know. I was left a little confused at this point, where I was like, "What?
No.
What is your relationship?"
No, it's just it's basically him sort of declaring, I guess, fealty is the right word, maybe.
Oh yeah, saying like
yes.
I'm sworn to you.
You have my sword, and you have my
and my ox.
Yes, it is an unwavering truth, he says.
Okay, unwavering truth.
That's the title of the episode. That is an unwavering truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not revealed that it's necessarily a romantic love or anything. And I mean, they're both children, so probably wasn't really at that point.
Yeah.
But like he was, Shigure always just, speaks his truth anyway. Like he doesn't always speak the truth about everything, but he always speaks his truth.
Yeah. In his own way. Yeah.
And he was, being very truthful and honest in that moment that, he would always love her. And I guess probably later is when it developed into a romantic sort of love. Yeah. And we don't really see that. We later see sort of an aftermath of that.
But at this time we do, because I forget, in so many words, Akito is berating him for essentially sleeping or being intimate with his mom, who we don't know at that time.
Wait, is that in this episode?
I thought it was, where like she threw that in his face, and he's like,
okay.
Well,
So we get this backstory as a reaction to her berating him for that in the past, because he was berating her for her reliance on what's his name?
Oh, the Kureno.
Yeah. Right? Like they've got this whole thing going. And I guess, yeah, so it is revealed here.
Yeah.
When he says it as a child, I don't think it's a romantic love, but I guess it is revealed at that time.
At that point.
It's that there is some sort of romantic love going on there.
Yeah, or at least some tension where it's like he, Shigure was hurt by, Kureno becoming, the closest one to Akito.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of spite, I guess, Shigure like slept with Ren, Akito's mom.
Yeah, well, no, it sounds like Akito slept with Kureno. And that's why Shigure went and slept with Ren.
But do you think the timing of all that with Akito and Kureno is due to his curse breaking and Akito wanting to keep it secret, and that's why he had Kureno become like, intimate, an intimate partner?
She, yes.
I know it's funny because like Akito is referred to as he the entire time until it's revealed that it's a woman, and then after that, every time Akito's brought up, it's she.
Well, not every time, because the rest of the Zodiac don't know.
Yeah, but so I guess they don't really focus on that.
They still
too much,
refer to Akito as he in a lot of these scenes.
It doesn't happen often, but after that,
it happens. I remember noticing it. I remember noticing it.
Oh, okay.
But I was also reading subtitles, although I assumed that the dubs were probably the same words mostly.
Oh, I'm
Maybe
sure.
You just didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, could have just been subtle. I didn't pick up on it. But I apologize for getting pronouns wrong. I mean, she was at least presenting as male for part of this, or for most of
Yes.
this show. So,
Yeah.
so forgive me. But yeah. Where was I going with that?
Ren and Sugar Ray.
Yes. So I'm not sure. I guess maybe it happens a little later, but where we get more of their like of the backstory of Ren and when Akito was young and of his father and stuff. I feel like it happens a little later, but
I don't remember exactly when that happens, but
yeah, I think it does. So we'll get to that.
Okay.
But actually, I guess it runs into the next thing because the next thing I have on my list here is that Rin, not to be confused with Ren, but Rin is the horse girl who is trying to find a way to break the curse and
She's trying to break the curse for Haru because
yes,
she wants Haru to be free.
yeah.
Although I think she'd want to break the curse for herself too, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
But I think it works both ways because if she breaks the curse for her, then it like helps him too because he's so just fixated on her and like if she could be free of the curse, then it would alleviate.
I think so. I think maybe the reason it's more important for her to break the curse for him is because she doesn't really feel that loyalty to Akito because Akito treats all females like shit, basically. Whereas Haru still does. Like Haru went and or actually, I guess it was. Yeah, it was Rin that went and talked to Akito about them being in love, right? Or was it Haru?
Well, Rin did do that, and that's when she got like pushed out of the window,
right?
Like the second story. But we learned that last season.
But Haru had already told Akito or something.
Oh, that they were in love.
Yeah,
I think maybe.
I feel like,
and that's probably what instigated.
And Akito said, "No, you can't do that. No." Basically, and that's when the relationship between Haru and Rin started, becoming unstable.
Yeah.
And that, to what I was saying, that's the reason that Rin wants to break the curse or break Haru's curse is because he still feels that loyalty to do what Akito says.
And it's
whereas she doesn't as much.
Yeah. And it's another conflict in their relationship.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, that's fair. But I feel like because there was so much attention paid to her wanting to free him from having to protect her and like care, like she felt like she was bringing him down because she was. But I'm sure the whole Akito thing is all wrapped up into that. But she had so much guilt about him, like essentially taking him down with her, even though she couldn't help it and didn't want it. It was like, but I think largely, if she could break the curse, then it would alleviate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it is a big old messed up ball of emotions and whatnot.
Yeah. So yeah, Rin ends up running in. It goes to the Soma estate and ends up running into Ren, Akito's mom.
What was she doing there again? I forget. Like she had some reason that she was there.
I think she was looking for Koreno.
Oh, right. Yeah, she was.
Because she was already convinced that he knew something even before Toru, found out
that
everything.
The curse was broken, or his curse was broken. Yeah. Right. That's what it was.
Finds Ren, and then Ren makes a deal with her if she'll go and like retrieve this box. It's like an ornamental box that we assume
contains something of Akira, which is Akito's father, her husband,
her late husband. Yeah. And so it's like this ornamental box. I assumed it was ashes. We don't know what's in it.
I assumed that as well.
Yeah.
I thought they'd actually said it, but
I thought so too.
What they said is Akito said father is in this box or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we assumed it was ashes.
Yeah.
But we find out later it's
just clever. Just a clever thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's essentially saying like, to Rin, if you go and steal this box, then I will help you with the curse.
I'll tell you how to break the curse. Yeah. I know how to break the curse. Just go and steal this thing.
I break curses all day long, right?
But I know everything there is to know about curses.
I somehow can't sneak into a room that's not well guarded and steal a little box, but
yeah.
But yeah, Akito is often there. But yeah, so we don't see her after this. She disappears. And then we cut to next episode, and Haru is worried. Toru's worried. Everyone's worried. Haven't seen her, and so he ends up confronting Akito about it. And yeah, it gets pretty heated. Akito's like pretty much denying it. And then yeah, I don't. There's one point where Haru like punches the wall like right past Akito's head. And Kureno's there too, but he had, unbeknownst to Akito, he had in the end of the previous episode like stumbled across this servant or someone bringing food to the house of the cat, where the cat is supposed to be locked away. And I'm calling it the cat house from here on out.
Yeah, it just makes me want to sing that song. Yeah, I'm going back to the best cat house in town. You know that song.
That sounds familiar, but
all right. Well, someone knows that song. Put it in the comments. First person to get it gets 2 points.
Oh, we're giving out points.
2 points.
Nice.
Yeah.
You guys get those points. I mean, you could just Google it and say, oh, yeah, I totally knew that cat house song. But yeah, so he had already been tipped off that someone was in there, something was going on. But yeah, so cut to Haru, getting all heated with Akito, and Akito's denying it. But then Kureno essentially intervenes and is like, oh, well, he's not wrong, and Akito kind of, loses her shit about that, like betrayal, essentially. Like, why are you
loses their shit? They did do that actually a lot in this episode, using the they.
Yeah. Which,
when they weren't sure which way to go, like. Because in Japanese, it can be kind of nondescriptive. They don't say the word he specifically or she specifically. Then, like, those sort of possessive pronouns are undefined, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of in context, right? Like,
yeah.
That makes sense.
They do that a lot in anime, where they'll be talking about a character, and they, like in Japanese, won't reveal that character's gender in what they're saying, because they're not using any of those he, she words. They're just saying that person's whatever, right? And then, people trying to translate and subtitle or dub that are forced to make a decision on, like, well, what pronoun do I use here? Anyway, I've noticed that in other anime as well.
Yeah, but that's interesting too, because it, like in this instance, it could create, within the Japanese language, creates like a clever use of, confusing or misdirecting the audience of, if you're trying to, like they did with Akito.
I wish I knew Japanese better so that I could tell whether certain people weren't using gender specific possessive pronouns when talking about Akito. But yeah, it would be interesting to,
it would be, see how they handled that.
Right.
But yes, I feel like in this, maybe it becomes apparent that Haru was right. Akito is denying it, but then Kureno steps in, and I forget exactly what is said. But yeah, it becomes apparent that that's the case, and so. But then I think I forget what happens after that, because she somehow gets out and she's just like running. Somebody lets her out. Well,
yeah, no, Kureno, when he saw this servant going, and the servant sounds like a bad word, but anyway,
I know.
this person who was bringing food to Rin says, oh, she's been locked in there for days and hasn't had any food and yada, 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 or something. And then Kureno, I think, does he just bust in or something like that and let her out? Or
I don't think they show it. I think he's just like,
I thought they did. Or he goes and he gets the keys from someone. Maybe he goes and he confronts Akito, and I don't remember.
I forget exactly. Somehow she gets out, and then
it's been like over a week since I've watched this.
Yeah,
like
and longer
too,
for me,
right? Yeah.
But it's not really an important detail. Like, what's important is that Haru finds out that he's right, and he's able to go rescue her. And it's a tender moment. I don't know. It's nice for them, because they've been through a lot.
Well, yeah, and when he rescues her, she's she's out, right? She's out, like she was out wandering the streets and she
Yeah.
had like fallen down, like, she's done so many times in the past because she didn't take care of herself. But
Yeah.
this time it's not because she didn't take care of herself. It's because, she's been locked in the cat house,
Yeah.
the best cat house in town. No.
Best of the worst. I mean, you decide.
Anyway, and yeah, then when he's rescuing her, doesn't she has some sort of backstory thing going on because she
Yeah.
thinks something else is happening until she realizes that it's not a dream and
Yeah.
he's actually there.
Well, she thinks she's dying, I think, in her head. Well, she probably is, but she keeps thinking like if I could just see him again, even if it's a dream, So I think then when he finally comes to her aid, she's like thinks it's a dream. Yeah.
Okay,
that's
what
not.
it was.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, and then he carries her to the hospital and
Yeah.
she becomes hospitalized.
She's like, oh, this place again.
Despite the fact that like everyone was saying that she was in the hospital like this whole time.
I know.
Essentially, right? Ever since, because apparently it's right after it's right after Toru and Kureno's conversation, because she sort of witnesses that. She doesn't hear what they're saying, but something about the way Toru reacted to what Kureno said drove her to go to the estate and
and seek him out.
Yeah.
Try to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she went through hell for that. But then that's resolved, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's in the hospital, but yeah, that's home for her basically.
And then after this next episode, we have the second person curse is broken.
Yes.
Which is
Momiji.
That's right. Our German friend.
The rabbit child.
German rabbit.
See, like, yeah, you've told me how the dub always has like this German accent or whatever, which is in the Japanese. Momiji basically speaks Japanese, but occasionally throws in like a German word.
Oh, okay.
Pronounced like a Japanese person would pronounce a German word. But in like this season, not at all. So are they still doing the German accent in this season?
It's still there. I mean, I guess because we didn't touch on this, but Momiji and the other younger kids.
Oh, yeah.
Although I guess Momiji's not that young, but like just looks young. But then they all have a growth spurt. And we were both a little confused about this, I think, because it was like not necessary. I don't know. It seemed like it would be after like a summer break or like where they didn't see each other. But Toru was often seeing Momiji and these other characters even still. So it was just kind of inexplicable of like overnight I had a growth spurt.
Yeah, it seems like there was like a time lapse that we didn't see. Maybe it's just because it was a season break or something. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. It's like the first time we're seeing him in this season.
Maybe.
So it's like, okay.
Despite the fact that the first episode of this is continuous from the last episode of last season.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it kind of weird. But
yeah, it was a bit strange, but it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Momiji is now a man-child.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the right word, but a teenager. It's funny because like Momiji is supposed to be 1 year younger than Haru, I think.
I think so.
Or about the same age or something like that. And Haru looks exactly the same.
Yeah. He doesn't change at all.
But Momiji has turned from this cute little child person into a nearly full-grown person.
Tall, very tall.
Yes.
All of a sudden went from like shorter than Toru to like towering above her.
Quite tall and somewhat more masculine. Quite a bit more masculine, I think.
Yeah. Although they do play that as like a gag of some of these other girl students are like, oh, Momiji, is that Momiji? Like, oh my god, and then like he's so mature now, and then he like does something ridiculous, like skips around and like I don't know, still does his Momiji thing.
Same thing he would have done before.
Yeah. Like okay. But anyway, yeah, he inexplicably his curse is broken. And I kept trying to think of like, oh, like what is it? Something that he did, or I think it's just
this. So, I haven't actually done the homework on this.
Okay,
but
there's an assignment.
I'm wondering if the order in which the curse is broken is the reverse order of the zodiac, because we'll get to it. I'll just spoil it now. Yuki is the last one.
Yeah, and he's the rat, which is the first.
And he was the first, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually looked to see whether this is accurate or not, if that's just how it breaks down. Or, yeah, I'd be interested to know what the reasoning is, if there's any explanation of this, if anyone has any guesses of why did Kureno's curse break? Why did Momiji's curse break? Is there a relation between them? Is that this true of all of these curses that break? I don't know. I haven't had much luck trying to piece together like the reason for the curse breaking. Did you have any theories on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was just looking up the order, and it's not according to this.
It's not? Okay.
Yeah, it's not. The rat is first, but then the rabbit's fourth, and the rooster is 10th. So it's like,
okay.
All right. So I'm not really sure.
Well, I guess that ruins that order. Thanks for doing the homework.
I like how homework is just a quick Google.
Right. I was just trying to encourage audience participation, but you've done the work for them, so they don't have to. Well, it's all right, you guys. Don't leave any YouTube comments. We don't need them.
People like, well, if you go by the Chinese zodiac from this iteration, I don't know.
Oh yes, go back to the Ming period. No,
yes.
I think it's been the same the whole time. The only thing I came up with was there seemed to be something to do with love, right? Except in Momiji's case, which it doesn't really make sense. But with all the other ones, it seems like a crucial moment where they've sort of realized their love for this other person, and that's when the curse breaks.
Well, I think that does apply to Momiji, because there's this whole, I mean, it's not very long, but there's this inner monologue he has, and I think it's a conversation he even has with Kyo at some point. But basically, he's just admitting to himself that like he has fallen in love with Toru, but he recognizes that like he's not the one. He's not the one of that she has affection for. It's
You're right. I didn't think
to everyone.
about that. Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that before, but now that you mentioned the love thing, I'm like, well, but what is it in Kureno's case?
I assume that it's a love for Akito.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I think.
Wow. Like actual love, not just like automatic deference. It's like
right.
It's like I actually truly love you.
I think so, yeah. And that's never explicitly stated or anything, but that's
yeah. Well, it's evidence in the fact that even after the curse breaks, he stays by her side, and becomes like the closest one to her and doesn't want to leave her. So.
Right, but then that sort of like this whole theory starts to break down when we get to Shigure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really sounds like I'm saying Sugar Ray.
I know. I was gonna make a joke earlier.
Shigure.
It's a really well-known boxer who had a string of pop hits in the late 90s.
What?
Sugar Ray.
Oh, I see.
Just combining all this.
I see what you're doing. I got it. But yeah, that sort of breaks down there because I think Shigure would have been in love with, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the love was sort of denied, and so then he went and did his own thing. So maybe that's why. And I don't know. It's
hard. I mean, please, Fruits Basket mega fans.
Yeah.
Weigh in.
If you got anything, am I on the right track? I feel like I am, but I haven't quite nailed it down.
Yeah.
So let me know what I'm.
What's
missing.
the thing? Is there a thing? Because
I mean, honestly, if you got this far in the episode, just I don't care what you say. Just go and go onto YouTube and type something. Just type if you want. I don't care. I'll like it. I mean, I'll click the like button on it is what I mean.
I won't actually like it.
I might like. I will actually like that quite a lot. I'll even click the little heart button too.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's an interesting thing because I also wonder because it seems like Akito is slowly breaking down. It's like when Kureno's curse was undone, she was distraught with that, but quickly was like, okay, well, we'll just keep it a secret, trying to keep it under wraps. But I feel like it was inevitable that almost like a domino effect that once one of the curses was broken, it was inevitable that the rest were going to follow suit, and Akito was trying desperately to not let that be known that was a thing, and not trying to like it was trying to ignore it essentially, like a fire in the other room,
They sort of talk about it in this season too, in that this is the first time that all of the Zodiacs have been alive at the same time.
That's true.
Which I didn't know. I assumed like once one died, another one, came up or
like we were expecting Hiro has a new
younger sibling,
baby sister. Yeah, we thought she was going to be the rooster or something. Like, but that didn't go. It happened, but
because the curse was broken. I guess the curse was never broken before. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's all
very confusing.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, the fact that they're all alive at the same time, apparently some people within the family thought that this meant this was like the end times for the covenant or whatever. I don't know what you'd call it.
The namesake, I don't know. So I guess we'll have some final thoughts at the end there. We're jumping ahead perhaps, but Momiji's curse is broken, and then the next episode,
yay, Momiji,
go Momiji, and he and Akito do have a confrontation of where Akito's basically like trying to rein him in and being like trying to be a little threatening.
I mean, she did the same thing that she did with Kureno, basically like, don't leave me.
Yeah, but she's like, it seems like even more desperate,
but Momiji is much more just like, I'm not planning on leaving right now.
Yeah.
Basically,
but I'm good. I'll close the blinds now.
Bye-bye.
It was all through like a screen door or like a
nice
Arcadia door. So he was like, "All right, we're done here."
Nice to see you again. Thanks for all the beatings in my childhood.
Yeah.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Loved it.
Bye. But yeah, all right. So Momiji's free, and then
now we get into to some Kyo stuff. There's this whole episode where Toru's like worried about him because she keeps thinking of if the curse doesn't, break for him, that what that's going to mean for his future of being locked up and all that. And but then meanwhile, back in the Batcave, Kyo is he goes to visit because I think Toru, there was early on in the season there were like Toru was going to go visit her mom's grave, and Yuki was like, "Oh, I'll go with you," and Kyo's like, "I can't make it." But then he ends up going by himself to pay his respects, and he runs into Toru's grandfather, who's there, and they have a conversation, and he gives him some insight onto Toru's mom and her childhood a little bit, and so it not only gives Kyo like more just more backstory on Toru and empathy for her, but he has a realization. I don't know if it becomes apparent for the audience at that moment, but it does soon after. But basically, he knows Toru's mom.
I think it's not until later he makes that realization. Isn't it the hat?
Oh, yeah. But I thought he saw the hat prior to that, but maybe it was just after.
Maybe. It is around that time.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I forget the exact sequence, but yeah, it's like he's starting to put all these pieces together and be like, wait a minute, like nothing we knew or could have guessed, right? But
it may have been like he was having a conversation with her and saw the hat, and that's when he remembered all of this stuff, and then like cut to this scene with him meeting her grandfather, right? Which the conversation with the grandfather, the only thing that I remember from that is why the grandfather calls her Kyoko all the time, which is her mother's name.
Yeah.
It's just sort of to remind her that she existed, I guess, basically, right?
Yeah, that their memory of her
is still alive, right?
Yeah,
She doesn't die as long as we remember her, I guess, is basically
Yeah, it can't fade if her name is still, mentioned.
And then he reveals like lots of things about, do you know why she talks like this? And
about her dad, like her
I feel like the hat thing must be after this, because that's when he makes that realization, is when he's talking to her about, well, do you know what your dad looks like, or something like that, right?
You're right.
And she gets the picture.
So it must have happened right before this next scene we're about to get to.
Yeah. Anyway.
You're right, and I totally forgot about like the way she talks and stuff. So their grandpa reveals that it's her trying to emulate her dad. Because and I want to talk about this later too, but from Toru's perspective, her mom, she could see that she was very sad and withdrawn, like after her dad died, and she worried about her, and so she wanted to, much like uttering Kyoko's name, like wanted to, keep the memory of him alive, and so she tried to like copy his mannerisms and his, way of speaking.
Because people always said that she did not look like her father, and things like that. Like she had no real resemblance or like nothing that evoked her father, just in her natural way of being.
Yeah.
And so she sort of changed the way that she talks to emulate the way that she always heard her father talk, which was in a Japanese like polite
very
tone.
Yeah, very polite. And it's like the reason she does that is more kind of selfish in her mind, I think, even though she's so sweet and pure anyway, but like she kind of berates herself for this at one point of like, I was only doing that so my mom would look at me, so it wasn't for, I wasn't doing it to honor my dad. I was doing it, so that she wouldn't be sad, but then also so that she would be happy,
so that she would love me because she loved my dad.
Yeah.
And,
so
if I emulate my dad, then she'll love me.
Yeah. Which is such I don't know, coming from a young child, it's so like heartbreaking, but sounds like something like a logic a child would have, I don't want to lose you. And this makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think Grandpa even says like, it's really childish logic and didn't really make sense, but it made a difference because Kyoko realized what Toru was doing, like why she was doing it.
Yeah.
And that sort of snapped her out of her funk and made her into the wonderful mother that we know her as.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that she probably wasn't a wonderful mother before that,
but she was able to be present
back to it. Yeah.
And come back to Toru. So while this is all, or I guess after this, but these next two things I think kind of happen concurrently.
Yeah.
But Ren, Akito's mom, we cut back to the Soma estate, and she is, she had tried to get Rin to steal that box of, that represents Akira or Akira, the father of, of Akito. And so she decides to just, do it herself, I guess. So she like busts in, Akito's room, and this whole, I forget exactly, but it's like this whole thing ensues. You're like, that's mine. Like everything that's Akita's, it belongs to me, and you had no connection with him.
Everything that is Akita or Akira. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And it ends in this whole thing where they're, gets super heated, and then they're like, I think Akito like tackles her to the ground, is like essentially like perhaps trying to kill her, like, like and then, pretty unhinged.
And then the old lady, Akito's mom, comes in and like tries to defuse it and stuff. And that's who the old lady is. That's all I was saying.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That was the first time it was revealed who she was. We've seen her several times throughout this whole thing, and that was where it was revealed who she was. And
that's good to know.
Sorry to derail.
Oh no, you're fine. And then Koreno is also there and like trying to help defuse it, and he doesn't, Akito doesn't kill her mom, but then shortly after that,
oh yeah, because Rin's the one, she brings the knife in, right?
And then it gets knocked out of her hand during the tussle or whatever. Yeah. And then Akito gets it, and I think it's kind of coming at her, but then everything gets kind of diffused.
I think it was just like sitting there, and then like the box gets opened, and then Rin says, "Oh, there's nothing in." Or Ren, sorry, do I keep saying Rin? I mean Ren. Ren sees that there's nothing inside, and Akito says, "Yeah, there's always been nothing inside." And
it's more of just the idea of it.
And then that whole story is revealed about how they gave this to Akito to represent, her father. It's just a MacGuffin. That's all. Yeah. Anyway, and then after the situation is diffused and everyone sort of goes their own way, Akito grabs the knife, and then Koreno is trying to comfort her outside, and she like hugs him and then literally stabs him in the back with the knife that she picked up.
Yep. And then
Because reasons, I don't know, reasons. Do you have reasons? I think she says something that sort of explains her reasoning for it, but
well, I think it. I mean, here's my idea: is that like Kureno was the first one whose curse was broken, right?
mm,
And so I think there's part of that, and then because I think like everything that Akito has known up until this point of like thinking that she is this like higher power and that she has this control, unilateral control over these, the Zodiac members and maybe like the Soma estate at large. I'm not sure, but all that's starting to crumble, and I think it's like a combined thing of like Koreno is the first, but he stood by her, but then like recently, like he in her mind betrayed her with the Rin thing,
oh yeah.
letting Rin go or having a hand in that, and then also like intervening with he and or she and his or she and her mom. I keep messing up the pronouns there, but I don't know. So I imagine like that was my idea of like
Mm,
she's not only frustrated and losing all her control, but I feel like she's kind of pinning it on Koreno because he was not only the first, but he's been like not having her best interest
right. And
in
he's been
mind.
sort of less present
Yeah,
recently as
less
well,
present.
which
Yeah.
is the whole thing with him and Arisa.
Mm,
Um, like he just went out to wander the town because he had never done that or whatever. Like he was just
yeah.
kind of like starting to sort of free himself from the somas a little bit. And I guess, yeah, Akito recognized that maybe. Okay.
Did not like that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
even when he goes
as
to
she
talk to
wouldn't.
Toru and reveals all that stuff at the beginning of this or the end of last season, beginning of this season, yeah, once he goes back there, he gets slapped around and
Yeah.
gets in trouble for that. So that's what I assume is the reasoning, but it wasn't like a direct thing of like
Mm.
how could you do this? But yeah, so she stabs him and then just takes off.
Goes running off through the woods.
And then yeah, and then we cut to what's happening concurrently with this, presumably.
So concurrently is what we sort of hinted at earlier with
Mm.
Kyo having realized that he sort of knows Toru from when he was younger, but more that he knows Kyoko, Toru's mom. Um, and we get this whole backstory of how one day Kyo was sitting in this vacant lot that he often sat in when he didn't know where else to go or something like that. And Kyoko happens to be walking by and see that's where okay, I think she says like why aren't you in school or something, which
Yeah,
is what leads me
I
to
think
believe
you're
that
right.
Toru was in school. We
Yeah,
talked about this before we started recording and
yeah.
we
I was confused because I was like, why? Because she meets him in this lot, and
mhm.
they end up hanging out several times there, and I was just like thinking, like, is your daughter just at home? Like, what? Why are you? You're not a good mother. But yeah, Tony pointed out to me like she's probably at school. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, and she ends up like talking to him and they sort of become friends in as much as you can be friends with someone,
They
a generation
right
apart,
off the
I
bat, they
suppose.
both have orange hair,
Yeah.
and their names both start with the same syllable. Kyo.
Did they know that though?
Maybe not at first, but these are things that they like bond.
Yeah.
But the Kyo thing might have come up later. But I think the orange hair was the
The orange hair
immediate.
was
Yeah.
a thing, I think. Yeah. Yeah. And, Kyoko was still dealing with her husband's death and having to raise Toru on her own. And she needed someone to talk to. And, I guess a little kid is as good a therapist as anyone. And Kyo was having his own issues that he could talk to her about and she could offer her, sage elder wisdom.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so they had a relationship sort of formed around that. And yeah, and there's more to the story than that, but
I mean, it all climaxes during that time when Toru goes missing. She's like
right.
lost, or they don't know where she is, and Kyo kind of like stumbles across her at their home. He's never met Toru. It was outside of there, because it wasn't in that lot. But I think it was like outside of their home or something. Like,
Yeah, well, the lot was sort of just around the corner. Yeah.
oh, okay. Well, anyway, he runs into her and she's like panicked and
Well,
freaking
he
out.
runs
And
into
she's like,
Kyoko. Right.
Kyoko, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, we gotta find her. And so Kyo like wants to help, and so he's running around trying to find her. And then
And this is the same, backstory scene that we have seen before, where the hat, the infamous hat,
yes.
belonged to Kyo. It was bought for him by Shisho, the master.
Yeah.
And then it blew off of his head, and Yuki happened to be nearby and picked it up and tried to give it back to Kyo, but then Kyo refused it because that dirty rat had touched it. And then so this has to be like right on the heels of it, right? Like it has to be like the same day.
Yeah.
Even,
I think
right?
it's while Kyo's still looking. Kyoko finds him like, oh, we found her.
Yeah, well, yeah, Kyo had lost his hat earlier. Yuki touched the
yeah,
hat
that
or
had
whatever.
happened before, yeah.
And then, no, I'm saying it's all the same day. And then Kyo, after having lost the hat, runs into Kyoko. And at the same time, Yuki, who now is in possession of the hat, happens to be walking and sees this child sitting on some steps crying and recognizes her, right? Although I don't remember how he recognized her. Wow, was this season 1 or season 2? I don't remember.
Oh.
Where the Yuki version of this story is revealed.
Yeah, I forget. It's fuzzy.
Anyway, yeah, so he finds her somehow and gives her the hat and leads her back to her house that he somehow knows where she lives. So he must have recognized her or something. Anyway, and sort of leaves her there. And then Kyoko finds her with the hat. And Toru has had this hat ever since. But at the same time that's happening, Kyo is out running around looking for her everywhere, trying to find her. And they even show him running past where she's sitting like twice, I think. And then eventually Kyoko comes and finds him and says, oh, it's okay. Someone else found her. And I think she's holding the hat that had been
for some reason
left on Toru's head. And he recognizes that that's the hat that Yuki had stolen from him, he thinks. But he had essentially...
he knows exactly whose hat it is.
Yeah, so he knows who found, and just another thing that he feels like Yuki had stole from him, I guess, basically.
Like he wanted to find her, and I don't know. I mean, you could be right that the whole hat thing between the two of them happened that same day. That just seems, because it's already a coincidence, but...
I guess it doesn't need to be the same day. It just means that Yuki, after getting that hat, wore it, like, all the time or something, right?
Yeah. It was just like he liked it.
I
thought that was mentioned too. I thought Kyo mentioned that, like, he, it kind of became his hat. Like he just like there's something about him, like he looked good in it, or I don't know, like it suited him. I just remember that being said, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't all on the same day. It's just like I guess that's the order of the events that occurred.
Yeah,
the hat was lost, and then Yuki got it, and Kyo got mad about it. Like he does about everything, really. But
so it's pretty strange that she was, Kyoko was just holding the hat when she found Kyo. But whatever. It's a minor thing.
Anyway, so all of that backstory stuff is revealed,
and there's more.
And then having seen the hat sitting by. This is, did we already cover this? This is where Kyo is sort of asking about Toru's father.
Yes.
Because of things that her grandfather had said to him.
Yeah.
And he sees the hat, and then he realizes that he knows Kyoko, and this is the whole backstory of that. And he realizes that years later, he sees Kyoko again standing like on a street corner, and he's standing behind her, and he's, I don't know, debating whether he should say hi or something like that.
He recognizes her, and he had kind of distanced himself from like meeting her and stuff, like after the whole like Toru hat incident.
After Yuki had won.
Yeah, and I think it's at that point that he like went to go train in the, I don't know. I guess he was already living with
He was already living with Shisho, but they went and lived in the mountains.
Live in the mountains, So it was at that time. And so later, like I didn't mean to derail you, but he sees her at a crosswalk and
and we find out this is the fateful day that Kyoko gets hit by a taxi, an out of control taxi cab coming down the street, and Kyo is there right behind her and sees the car coming, and he says he could have grabbed her and like pulled her in to save her, but he knew that if he did, he would turn into a cat, and that would be a whole big thing he'd have to deal with. So he didn't, and he basically just let her die.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
so as not to reveal his own secret.
and I guess we have to say too, because up until all of this, in the most recent episode, I think we forgot to mention it, but Toru, there's this scene where she's worried about Rin, and she runs into like Sugar Ray and
Sugar Ray? I'm sorry, I hear it too.
She runs into Sugar Ray and the other girl. I can't think of her dang name, but she's the one that was in love with Kyo. That like
the boar girl.
Yeah, the boar.
I don't remember her name either. Sorry.
Yeah, which is okay. But she basically like can see, as clear as day what's happening, and of how like Toru like she actually does have feelings for Kyo, but she's not like admitting them to herself, and so she kind of like blows up on Toru of like, what the hell's your problem, like
shit, or get off the pot, lady.
Yeah. And so it starts this thing in Toru's mind, and like she starts to like slowly come around to the term, like the fact that like she is in love with Kyo, and then she starts to have guilt about that, because after her mom died, similar she didn't want, like, similar to like not her dad's memory not fading for her mom, she didn't want her mom's memory to fade for her, and so she made a pact with herself to keep her number one in her heart, that she would never so that she would never leave her memory.
And so damn sneaky cat just weaseled his, well, no, not weaseled, but
felined his way.
Yeah.
And she always loved the cat as a kid too, in the Zodiac story, but yeah, so this is all happening in her mind, and so when Kyo sees the hat in her room, he like runs downstairs, and she like goes after him, and he's leaving, and she's like, "Don't go," and she's kind of like ready to confess, to tell him how she feels at that moment. So this is such a good drama for me. I don't know, I really enjoyed it. Of like, this is the shit where it's like she's about to confess her love, and he is too, but he's ready to drop this bombshell, and so all of this kind of, it's in the hallway or the entryway, and then it like he goes outside, and she goes after him, and it's raining, and it's this whole thing, and yeah, he tells her this whole gut-wrenching story that we just talked about, and so yeah, he just has this immense guilt about essentially like indirectly killing her mom. Like that's how he has internalized it,
and he refuses to accept any sort of forgiveness from her for that, basically. Like that's sort of one of the main things.
Yeah, in his mind it's unforgivable, and he feels so bad about it that there's no other option for them to not have a relationship, to no longer to not act on their feelings, because how could we get past this?
Yeah. And he drops this bombshell on her, and then he runs away, because that's what he does.
But
and then she's left there. Oh, wait, what?
Well, before he runs away, her response is, she says, "I don't," because he tells, I guess we didn't say this either, but he swears that her mom's, Kyoko's dying words. Yeah, I guess that's important, right?
Yeah.
But he swears that he heard that her dying words were, "I will never forgive you."
I'll never forgive you.
Because while he was standing there, he could like see the blood pooling, and he was looking at her, and she looked up at him, and so he, was like, "She recognizes me," and then she said that, and it stuck with him, and solidified like how he felt about it. But then Toru's response to all this is like, "I love my mom, but like I don't see how that could be. I think she's wrong, essentially, and like I love you. Like I don't know why you're."
Well, and she doesn't think that that's how her mom meant it, right? Like,
yeah.
She's, like,
she's basically
there's no
like,
way my mom would have meant that the way you're taking
it. And then she was like, even if she did, like I disagree.
Right. Yeah.
But yet, and then he says, which I believe is the name of this episode, is "I'm disappointed in you."
Yes, episode 58. I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah, and then he runs.
And then he runs away. And then.
They should have had like a cover of that.
Wrong Fruits Basket, I know, but
should have had a cover of that for one of the themes in this.
Yeah, like for the final episode or something, maybe. I don't know.
Even like an insert or something, like.
Yeah,
that'd been really nice.
Okay, so I said and then, and I was going to say something other than I had to pee. Um, and then, out of the bushes, who should arrive but Santa Claus and 8 tiny reindeer? No, it's
Wrong show.
Akito.
Carrying the same bloody
Carrying
dagger.
a bloody knife that she stabbed Karina with. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I should also say that during before Akito shows up, oh yeah, so while basically midpoint and when like Kyo's confessing his love and also dropping this bombshell, and then Toru reciprocates his love or her love, and then he runs away. Yuki happened to hear all of this. He was kind of like not all of it, but like he came in during like the most crucial part. Not, I mean, he was like kind of like they didn't know he was listening. He was kind of like on the other side of the door. To the outside and eavesdropping. But once once Kyo starts taking off, Yuki's like, "Oh hell no! Like this girl just told you she loved you. Like you're an idiot." And so he immediately books it past Toru.
Yeah.
Not realizing that Akito is about to come out of the bushes with a fucking dagger.
Yep. Yeah. So everyone's gone. Shigure is he? Where is he at this point? He had a meeting with his publisher or something, maybe.
That was something that happened during this season, but I don't know if that was. I don't think that was supposed to be during this time. I don't know.
They do use that. They use that as a convenient excuse fairly often. Yeah. I'm not sure where he's at this point. Maybe he's hanging out with. What's his name?
Yeah, I can't think of it either. Ayame.
Yeah.
Ayame?
Sure. Let's go with that.
The really annoying one.
Yuki's older brother, whatever his name is. If we said it wrong, let us know.
Oh, Yuki!
He's so great. Anyway, yeah. So, and then Akito with knife covered in blood, covered in Kureno's blood, comes out of the bushes and basically starts yelling at Toru about how she's ruined her life.
Yep. You've turned everyone against me.
Yeah.
And I blame you for it all.
And Toru's like, no, it's okay. I like you anyway. We should be friends. Like, you've had a really hard life. Okay, she doesn't say all this out loud, but she thinks all of it. Like, oh, I never really thought about how hard a life she's had. And now that she knows that Akito is female, like, how hard that must have been for her to pretend to be a male and, like, all of this stuff. Like, she goes through all of this stuff in her head. And
Toru has, like, immense levels of emotional intelligence. Like, like she's very quickly is like, oh my God, it never occurred to me, all of the pain that you've endured. And she takes all of that on, like in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Toru's like 90% empathy, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. And yeah, so she basically says, you and I should be friends. And then Akito stabs her in the arm. And then Toru's like, oh, we should be friends, though. And then Akito stabs her in the arm again.
It's like, did you not hear me? But then...
and then she says it again, and then Akito runs off.
I remember there was a point where, like, Toru just kept talking and, was trying to reach her. She's just so selfless and sweet. And then at one point... I forget what she says, but she says something to piss Akito off, but she drops the dagger at that point, and she's just like, like shaking her, like gets up in her business, like clearly I can't kill you, but I want to just kick your ass right now.
I was just looking at the title of the episode to see if it had a revelation on what might have been said. The title of this episode is "What's Your Name?" Do you remember when that line is said? I remember it. Like, I remember all of these like lines being said in the show.
I think it happens later. Like... It happens later, almost there, because
okay.
I forget. Is it Akito runs off?
Oh yeah, it's after they.
Well, Akito runs off, and Toru
runs off.
Toru
chases after her,
even though she's like bleeding.
Yeah.
And they go to this, like,
even though she's bleeding and has been stabbed by the person that she's chasing twice.
Yeah.
Yep, chases after the person who stabbed her twice.
And they end up
to be friends with her.
Yeah, she really, well, like, because she feels so sad about, after finally realizing, or finally taking in Akito's, I guess, perspective and but yeah, she feels so bad, and so she chases her to this. It's raining still, right? So it's all like muddy and stuff, and it's like a dirt, and they're approaching this cliff. There's like this cliff. Presumably, we talked off mic, but Tony gave me some revelations here. But it's near, presumably near where Toru originally in the very beginning was living in a tent. Like all over this cliff, like down on the the ground is probably whereabouts she was.
I would say the word presumably is not needed there.
No,
No,
I mean it's right near the house, so
yeah, but it literally. So later, after what you're about to say happens, we see Toru's tent covered in like the previous.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that, I guess.
All right. Continue, and I'll explain more later.
Nice. I mean, you could have taken over. But yeah. But it's during that part where Toru's like continuing to just remain steadfast and wants to be friends, and so she takes a new approach, and it's like, let's just start over. Like, hi, I'm Toru. What's your name?
Oh yeah, there you go. That's the name of the episode. Man, I knew we'd get there. All right.
But I'll have you take it over from here because you got some insight.
And then at this point, Akito basically, I guess, realizes that Toru means her no harm, and everything that Toru has done that has essentially ruined her life in her mind anyway, was not meant to do any of that, and decides that Toru is genuine when she says she wants to be her friend, not that she's just taking pity on her or feeling sorry for her or anything, which Toru is a little bit, let's be honest. But
in the sweetest, most empathetic way.
But even pity and all of that, encapsulated in that, she is still honest in that, she wants to be friends with her.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, it's like in that moment, Akito realizes that all of these people around her and the Zodiac family, it's not that Toru turned them against her. It's just that she brought light into their worlds, and they wanted, to escape, her, Akito's tyranny,
Right.
So I don't know if she in that moment, like, had that epiphany exactly, but I think it was something like that, where she was like, oh my God, this girl's just very sweet and pure hearted and inspiring, gives me hope, instead of someone that I want to stab to death.
Right. And so then Akito finally comes to this revelation, and I think drops the knife. I actually don't remember for sure.
Well, no, she had already dropped the knife.
Oh right, she dropped it back at the house before she ran up.
Yeah.
Oh okay, yeah. And anyway, she moves like she's going to embrace Toru, I think. And then suddenly the earth beneath Toru's feet collapses, because she's standing sort of on the edge of a cliff, made of mud, and it's raining.
It's all wet.
And
Landslide.
Anyway, landslide, and she falls, and hits her head pretty hard, I guess, and is unconscious. And then Akito is like in a panic about what to do. She knows she needs to go get help, so she runs and tries to find. She just starts screaming, "Help! Help!"
Yeah.
And eventually someone hears her and comes, and and then they find Toru laying on the ground, like literally like 5 or 10 feet away from her tent, which is covered in mud from the landslide that covered her tent back in episode 2 or 3 of the series, the original season 1.
Yeah.
The tent
Might
is
have been
there.
Even episode 1. I'm not sure. 1 or 2.
No, I think episode 1 ends when she. Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Definitely say 1 or 2.
One or 2. Yeah, I think you're right. I was thinking episode 1 ended after she meets Shigure, but I'm probably wrong about that. So anyway, so that landslide that happened and covered her tent, and then she had to go and dig mom out, right?
Yeah.
So that all that mud covering the tent, and the tent pole and part of the tent is still sticking up out of this mud. Like I say, 10 feet away. Like it's clearly visible in the shot several times. Anyway, so this whole idea of like we talked before about To Your Eternity, and how there's this cliff that collapses as soon as there's like an emotional response from one character to another, that was not set up or justified in any way. But this one has literally been set up since like the first or second episode of the show. Like, yeah, it's dangerous over there. Those cliffs collapse all the time, especially when it rains.
Yeah, and it was I was gonna say, and it was raining, like to just solidify. Well, I guess solidify is not the best turn of phrase, but yeah, to further support that, it's like, yeah. It all checks out.
So it's not like it was probably designed this way from way back when, but the author at least looked back and said, "Oh, they should go up on this cliff, and then this will be a callback that I can use." Yeah, it's good writing.
Yeah, that's really good. And then I also love like, well, moving on, I guess beyond this,
but not good writing is curing someone's entire life's worth of like downtroddenness by saying, "I want to be your friend." And now you're fixed. All right. Anyway,
I don't think that was all of it, but I suppose we can get into it after we finish the story here.
That was literally the only problem I had with this show in general and this season.
So you're more well. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We're almost done here.
We're almost there.
So Koreno and Toru have to be hospitalized, and they are.
Mm-hmm.
They both have stab wounds, and Toru has a traumatic brain injury. Although I guess there is the part.
I think so. She has maybe a concussion, but
yeah, maybe. Yeah. But when
a bleeding head wound
when
for
she's
sure.
when she's I guess to go back to that, when she's laying there bleeding, word gets back to Kyo about what happened, and he runs up to her, and he's basically just
Kyo and Yuki.
Yuki
had Yuki caught up to Kyo at that point? Was there like a thing that happened there?
I think so. They kept chasing each other. Yeah, I forget. Nothing really much happened with that.
Yeah, I don't think so. It was probably just like they started the conversation and then heard Akiso screaming for help.
Yeah. And then we also didn't touch on, because I wanted to, about because Toru fell off this cliff inexplicably, but when Akito had to go run and get help, she ran into, I think, Shigure and Yuki. I don't know if Kyo was right there, but I think the two were there or something, like near the house. Maybe it wasn't Yuki because he was chasing Kyo, but someone, a couple people that are in the Soma family, and Akito's just like telling them what happened. He's like,
yeah,
I know what it's
Haru.
Oh, maybe
Shigure
it might have been
Haru.
Haru.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But yeah,
Akito's just like explaining it, but it's like, I know what it sounds like. I didn't do it though. I know I've totally pushed people off of balcony windows before, but it wasn't me.
I know it sounds like I pushed her off a cliff and I'm trying to make excuses, but I didn't. I stabbed her twice, but I didn't push her off that cliff.
I actually like her.
I didn't do it. I did not hurt her.
I did not.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Yuki. The cat room.
We had to do that.
The cat room.
The cat house. We're going back to the best cat house in town.
Well, I was trying to the room, the cat house, the cat room.
I see.
Yeah, no, it nosedived. But yeah. Anyway, so after that, so then Kyo runs up to her. That's what I was trying to get to. And he basically kind of, embraces her and tells her to hold on and gives her strength. But then once they're being hospitalized, Kyo like can't bring himself to go in there, and he's like convinced that like it's not going to work, and he's still just in his head about it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the kiss.
Oh yeah, they kiss during that part. Yeah, shit. Well, I mean, Kyo kisses Toru.
Kyo kisses Toru, who is semi-conscious.
And then later it's brought up, and she's like, I don't remember that.
Yeah. Later he's like, oh, technically that was our second kiss. She's like, what?
You creep. But yeah, so then they're those two are hospitalized, and then there's a whole scene about Akito like going to see them and being, it's very difficult. It's like,
I'm sorry I stabbed and or pushed you off a cliff. I mean, I didn't push you off the cliff, but you know what I mean. No, that's
yeah.
But that's basically it. Hi, I'm sorry that I fucking sucked for so long, but I'm cured because of Toru's love, just like everyone else in this family.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But then during the time that Toru's in the hospital, Kyo, I forget what happens exactly, but he has an epiphany where he's like, I'm an idiot. Somebody talks to him, I can't remember, but it prompts him to go confront his father, and to basically say like, screw you, I'm not going to be locked away. And
I don't know. Was it anything? I think it was just the fact that Toru got injured and he realized that he loved her, even though he already knew that. I don't know.
I think there
Something
was a
like that.
conversation with Yuki
Oh, maybe.
where
Well,
Yuki
because
was,
Yuki's got his thing going on too.
that's true, and we're gonna get to that because I'm all about that. Not we're just trying to get through this Kyo and Toru stuff, but yeah, I think exactly. I think in light of what Yuki has with Machi, he's like, and witnessing everything that happened that one night, being like, you need to not screw this up, and yada yada. And so yeah, he takes it upon himself to go kind of not sever tie, like kind of he almost like makes amends with his dad, like by force, where he's like, he's like, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to submit to all this BS. And then he also has an epiphany about like how his dad treated his mom, wasn't great. And, is probably more the reason that,
yeah, I mean, his dad outwardly blames Kyo for his mother's suicide.
He's like an alcoholic and just downward spiral.
But that's mostly just him covering up for his own knowledge that he's probably the one that drove her to suicide.
Yeah.
And Kyo comes to that realization, like he's always blamed himself for his mother's death. And like in that moment in the conversation with his father, he realizes really his dad probably had a lot more to do with it than he did. He was just a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's mostly his dad talking about how much Kyo sucked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's a cool moment of maturity for Kyo because he's not saying that, oh, it's all your fault. I just need to. I was shifting it on. It was on me. I'm going to shift it onto you. It's kind of more like, no, it's like a nuanced thing, and I realize now like how shitty you really were to my mom. And so I imagine it's like it's like my whole thing didn't help, but like, come on, like I was just a kid, like, yeah. So it's like more of an adult, like, or approaching adult, like, perspective to have, which is cool coming from Kyo, someone who like poured all of his misfortune into blaming it on Yuki.
Yeah, everything else has always just been like pure anger coming out of him. So
yeah,
it's definitely a more mature perspective that he's taken in this conversation, because he doesn't, even though his dad's being a total dick, he doesn't try and assault or kill him in any way.
Yeah, and he even tells him when he's leaving, he's like, I'll be back to see you.
And his dad's like, no, don't come back. I hate you.
Love you too, Dad.
Bye. Oh yeah, and part of that is like his dad calls for, to have the Soma family come and remove him and take him to the cat house like immediately, because he's gone off the rails and is threatening to kill him or something, just the way his dad interprets it.
Yeah.
And I guess word eventually gets back, and Akido's like, nah.
It's fine. It's fine. And then, so after that was kind of the business he had to wrap up before he went and finally, because he didn't go see Toru at all while she was in the hospital. And it seemed like it was a while, like a couple weeks or something.
Yeah, a couple weeks probably, yeah.
But yeah, he, as he's approaching the hospital, he knows she's getting out this day, so it's not that big of a coincidence. But as he's approaching Hanajima and, I forget the other girl's name now.
Ueno?
Oh, Ueno, yeah.
Arisa?
Yeah. Ueno?
No.
Something else.
Uitani.
Oh, Uotani. Yes, Uotani. Yes, thank you. I always forget her first name. It's Arisa.
Arisa, yeah.
Okay. Thought that was a different character's name.
What? Who?
I thought that was one of the Zodiac members. No?
No.
The young one that Hiro is like...
Risa.
That's Risa, not Arisa.
Correct.
Oh, okay. And the dub, they always just refer to her as Uotani, Toru's, best
She's
friend.
mostly referred to as Uotani in Japanese, but occasionally Arisa. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so...
I forget Hanajima's first name.
Saki.
Saki?
Yeah.
You remember that one?
I do. But they emerge, and Toru's falling behind. She's, been discharged from the hospital. And great scene. Great fucking scene where Toru, looks over and sees Kyo there. and Kyo's looking right at her, and then she just like she's holding like these papers, like probably hospital records or whatever, and she just like
Release
drops them
papers.
and screams and just runs off, which is hilarious, but also really funny because that's exactly what he did. And she stood there and told him basically, told him that he doesn't need to feel guilty and that she still loves him, and he ran away. And so in her mind, I'm thinking like she doesn't know where to go from here. Like maybe I'll try his tactic. I'll just run away because I don't know what else to do, man. I still love you, and you won't come see me in the hospital, and you run away, and yada yada. But yeah, he chases after
And
her.
so of course,
in this whole scene,
chases after her and then catches up to her because he's way faster. We know this. And then he, puts himself in her path and sort of blocks her and then starts to tell her what he came there to tell her. And she does the exact same thing, turns around and runs away the other way. And he chases after her again. And then eventually they, have their conversation.
Yeah. And they kind of, just basically accept each other, and it's a very sweet moment. I mean, it's this kind of moment in a lot of, especially in anime, but a lot of like romantic dramas where they don't commit at the end. It's like they want to just keep it open ended. And I really respect going this far. Having this dramatic climax and then actually giving us the goods. Being like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and there's nothing standing in our way now.
And then they move away to a different city together and get married and have children and grandchildren.
They do, yeah.
The end.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
I mean, that's all. That all happens.
Oh, that does, yeah, that does happen.
It's all canon, for sure.
I mean, they don't show all of that.
It sounds like we're joking about it, but
no, it's canon. And it's pretty cool. But yeah, so that gets us up to the end of their story. Yuki and Machi is something we got to touch on. And there's other things, like there's a lot of like cute matchmaking at the end of this that is kind of fluff to me, where it's like, okay, that's sweet. Like everyone's kind of freed from Akito, so like they're free to like be in a relationship. So it's like it makes sense that they would do that. Like Ayame, and his girl that works for him. They're they embrace and whatnot, and there's others I forget. I mean, Shigure and Akito have like a seemingly a thing going on, but
Hiro and Risa, maybe.
Yeah, they're pretty young still, but it's like that they can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to when Yuki is kind of listening in on the whole thing that transpired on that rainy night. And then chases Kyo out of principle. Like, this girl just confessed her love to you. He has an epiphany of his own about Machi.
Yes, much like the Happy Days spinoff, Joni loves Chachi.
Yuki loves Machi.
Yeah, you got it. Woo!
That's funny. I've heard of that show, but I didn't know it was a Happy Days spinoff.
Joni Cunningham. That's... I'm not going to explain. Yes, it's a Happy Days spinoff. let me just leave it at that.
Okay.
It's Richie Cunningham's sister.
Okay.
You know who Richie Cunningham is?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Does everyone at home know who Richie Cunningham is? Or
Please.
do I have to explain?
Our phones are blowing up.
That's the character played by what's his name? Why can't I think of it?
Yeah, Arrested Development narrator.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Redhead guy.
Ron Howard.
Yeah, famous director.
Yeah, Ron Howard. I kept wanting to think Rob Reiner because I watched Spinal Tap recently. But
it's funny because I was thinking Ron, but I couldn't think of the last name. But it's funny because the dad's name in Happy Days is Howard. That doesn't matter actually, but it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Played by Tom Bosley, by the way, in case anyone wanted to know the name of the dad in Happy Days.
Wow. You're not dating yourself at all.
The mom's name is Marion? Yeah, Marion. I don't remember the name of the actress that plays her, though. Okay, anyway, Yuki loves Machi.
The end. No, they have a really sweet scene that actually takes place before that rainy night thing, which I really liked. But essentially they're at school, you know, and they're doing the student council thing, and Machi's like running late, and it turns out like in one of her previous classes there was like this chalk, and she just destroyed it, and so she had to like clean it up and stuff, and that's why she was late. But then while she's like getting back there, she's approaching, and she overhears these other girls telling Yuki and stuff about how, you know, this rumor about how she like almost like killed her brother and stuff. And so she ends up, you know, they see that she is, you know, about to enter the room, and then she hears that, she runs away. And so
and then we get her half brother talking to Yuki and telling him the story about, yeah, it's essentially true. She, you know, that's what my family says, is that she tried to kill her little brother or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he talks about sometime when, I don't remember where they were, but he saw her like outside, just like walking around in the freshly fallen snow, just making footprints everywhere and everything. And sorry, I didn't mean to totally derail. You can.
Oh no, you're fine. That's all. That's where I'm going.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so then there's this really great scene after, you know, the same day, but after school, they're like, I forget that guy's name, but her half brother is like, his voice is so great in the dub, like he's just so laid back, and like it fits it so perfectly, where he's like, yeah, let's go see Machi. And so they go to her place, and Yuki's like, they're walking there, he's like, is she going to like this, you know? And he's like, oh no.
No.
And I think he gives him a heads up about like her room, you know, he keeps her place messy or whatever. But yeah, they show up there, and it's like a mess, and she's like, what are you doing here? And like I always love the scenes of her, like, you know, freaking out. They're really cute, and just I don't know, it's good.
Apparently Georgie loves Machi.
I do love Machi. She's great. And Yuki's great too. They're a good match. But yeah, they bust in there, and they end up like cleaning up a bunch of garbage in her room, and then what's his face goes to take the garbage out, and it's just Yuki and Machi in the room, and she gives her, you know, side of the story about, you know, some more backstory on like her parents and stuff, and essentially she had this younger, not her half brother who's around the same age, she had a younger brother who the family really doted on, and, you know, seemed to, I don't know, got a lot more attention, I suppose. And she didn't mean any harm by him. You know, she was more like stressed out from all the stuff with her mom, like having her try to compete with her half brother to get this inheritance. We kind of touched on that before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the younger brother was sick, and she was trying to comfort him and kind of, you know, cover him with a blanket, or just, you know, kind of mother him essentially. And the parents, like mom and stepdad or whatever, busted in and like got the wrong idea and had this whole basically.
I mean, they had the wrong idea before they walked into that room. They just, you know, their immediate assumption was, because she was like near him even, that she was trying to do him harm, because he was, I guess, they thought at that point was their best hope for getting the inheritance, or for that him becoming the successor to the father or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so they thought that she was jealous and trying to, you know, claim the inheritance or whatever for herself, essentially.
Yeah.
Because that's their mindset. Like, that's everything they had like dedicated their lives to, was like making her perfect so that she could become the successor to her father.
It's like that one of those things where you're likely to accuse someone of a crime. Like, it's an often thing where, like, when you yourself have done the same thing, you know, like you're like, I don't know, like you kind of empathize with it, or I don't know, it's not, you know, like kind of, I don't know, I don't know what a better way to describe that. But yeah, they're twisted and have this distorted view of that, and she didn't really mean any harm by her own admission, and so they have this, you know, she's in tears, and they have this really, you know, tender moment, and she explains the whole snow thing. It's essentially she's always been.
I don't think she explains it. I think Yuki sort of guesses it.
Oh,
right?
He like surmises it, like with the chalk and the snow, and
and her, you know, freaking out and like throwing the books in the student council space all over. Like, everything that she's done to this point has been like disruption of order.
Yeah,
you know, adding disorder to order, because Yeah, and I think he basically says all of it, like, you know, you've been pushed to be perfect your whole life, so
Yeah.
perfection like triggers you basically.
Yeah.
And
So when you see like freshly laid snow, you want to stomp on it. When you see
right,
chalk, you want to destroy it.
you see, yeah, it perfectly
Anything.
lined up sticks of chalk. You want to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just put them in enter chaos.
right.
Yeah, so they have this, yeah, and it all ends with, you know, this drawing them closer together. And then there's a funny scene where because you know, the stepbrother was taking the trash out, but he had kind of like come back in quietly, and he was around the corner like listening. And then right after that, you know, he's, you know, it's like a tender moment, and they like, you know, he's thinking they might kiss or something, and then his phone goes off until he ruins the mood. But then the next day, they're doing a student council like meeting thing, and Yuki's like leading, you know, he's the president, so he's like leading the talk or whatever, and somebody, they need chalk or whatever, so they're passing it down, and Machi's right next to him, and they put the chalk right in front of her, and Yuki, even though he's talking and giving this, you know,
it's a brand new box of chalk,
yeah,
all just,
so it's all
you know,
freshly laid, and
yep.
yeah, they're all just sitting there, and you can see
Perfect.
Machi just like stewing, like staring over it, like and then but Yuki just very slyly, without even looking over or looking up at her or disrupting what he's saying, just kind of, you know, breaks one of the chalk pieces to signify to her that he has got her back.
Yeah, just reaches over, breaks one, puts it back, and then just continues talking the whole time, you know. Yeah,
it's fucking brilliant to me. Like
he's a smooth operator, man.
He is. He's
Oof.
damn good.
Prince Yuki.
Take a note. And he's grown into that role. Like he was it was all image before that, but yeah, no, that I love all of that. And then that cuts to what I was jumping ahead of to before, which he kind of has like a epiphany with you know, witnessing Toru and Kyo's whole thing, and I think he gets a call at that, you know, shortly after that.
Yeah, I don't remember what she called for. She just wanted to ask him something, or
I thought she said she got him something. She got him a gift or something.
Is that what it was? Oh yeah, that's what it was.
She gives him something.
She had something to give him. I think
Yeah.
it was. Yeah. Anyway, and he immediately was like, "Where are you?" And she says, "You know, I'm by the station, blah blah blah, or whatever." He's like, "Okay, I'm on my way," and then just like hangs
like,
up and starts running.
She's like, "What? What?"
And then then he arrives at the station, and she gives him the gift, which is, I think it was for Toru, actually. Wasn't it like a thank you gift for Toru?
Because she had been in the hospital and stuff. Yeah, that's right. And that was cool too, because she talks about how she had recognized a change in him, because clearly she had known about him before, you know, the student council stuff, but she had noticed that he had changed, and she attributed that correctly to Toru. But then she had that was really cool to me, because like it showed that like she had enough maturity to recognize, you know, the role that Toru played in his life, but also, you know, not be just jealous and like, you know, hate her for it.
Right.
I don't know. That was
like Akito cool. did.
Yeah, precisely. And if Yuki, you know, he was already really into Machi at that point, but that probably just made it even more, you know, obvious that he wanted to be with her.
Yep. And as a result of that, him discovering this love that he had outside of the Soma clan, his curse broke.
Yep.
That's back to my theory on the love thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's still not.
And we didn't touch on it, but Kyo's breaks like shortly after he and after he's chasing her from the hospital. They finally meet and they talk everything out, and then it breaks, and he
just feels it. Yeah.
Snaps his bracelet off, and Toru ends up picking up the pieces of it.
Yep, and putting them in a little jar that we see in the end credits. I got end credits. This season I noticed it more than other ones, but like key elements from the show up in that first scene in the end credits. Like there's the one where Kyo and Toru get in the argument or whatever, and the picture frame that has mother's picture in it breaks. So in the end credits that picture frame is broken. And then there's so many other ones. Yeah. So they throw in all these little things. Yeah, and then the beads in this episode is the one.
The hat was in there somewhere.
The hat's always in there.
Yeah.
Except I think there was one episode where it was intentionally removed for some reason. I don't remember why. But
interesting. Speaking of the ending theme, I really like it. It's probably one of my favorite opening or endings
of this season.
From the whole show. But yeah, the ending from this season. I forget how it goes or what it's called, but
I don't remember. I remember last season 2. I can't remember if it was the opening or the ending, or I don't know. I don't remember. It all kind of
there's some good ones in
kind
there.
of blurred, but
Wasn't big on the opening for this last season, but it was all right.
Yeah, I don't remember any of them well enough to say which one it was, but I know that there's one that I really liked and one that I kind of liked.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I mean, I guess that wraps up like most of the story stuff. I mean, there are like loose ends here and there, like I think with Yuki and Machi, like Yuki's gonna go off to school somewhere, like in a different city, and he's like, "I'm gonna wait for you, and I'll give you a key to my place."
Because Machi's a year younger.
Yeah, so she still needs to graduate, and this whole thing was like, "Here's a key to my place, you know. I just want you to know I'm not gonna cheat on you or anything." And she was like, you know, what the hell? And she's like, oh, you don't want the key then? And she's like, no, I do. Don't mess with me. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff. It kind of leaves it open ended, except for, you know, we get a flash forward of the fact that Kyo and Toru have grandkids, and they look just like them, very similar. But yeah, so that's
and there's basket. What else? What other wrap ups were there that we forgot? I mean, Tani doesn't have a whole lot, right?
Well, she does meet with Kureno, and they essentially talk about like how they will be together and they want to be together, and then he like moves somewhere else, but like she is gonna like meet up with him someday. I don't know. It was like kind of like a vague promise or pact.
Najima?
Oh yeah, Hanajima.
Does she have anything?
I don't know because
I don't remember. I just remember her, like the interactions she has with Toru in that one episode, her and her brother. But yeah,
I feel like there was something with her at the end, but yeah, I can't remember.
Maybe. We've got the Prince Yuki fan club. They have a wrap up.
Yeah, well, the main one there got to like confess her love to Yuki without, you know, being entirely
right. She basically says, I know that you're not going to reciprocate these feelings, but I just want to tell you how much my admiration for you has carried me through my high school years. Something like that. I don't know.
You got me through.
It's cheesy and yeah.
But I kind of liked her. Like by the end of her arc there, I don't know. She wasn't, you know, there wasn't anything deep to her, but even as like a tertiary character, she was, you know, she was decently written.
And then there also appears to be a Prince Momiji fan club forming.
Oh, yes.
There was that as well.
Yeah, I've heard rumblings online of people just wanting like a Fruits Basket, another, you know, like a extra season of like, you know, stuff after this. But I think it's more just wanting, you know, like really liking these characters because they are well written, and you get satisfaction on their arcs,
right?
And you don't want them to, now that they're finally happy, you know, or at least have a chance at happiness. Like you know, it's like I get that urge to want more, to want to hang out with them.
Right. I think it would be this ending is pretty fulfilling.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh yeah.
And I think anything that you did after this would be less.
Yeah. I could see like an OVA or something of just like a, you know, fun summer episode, like maybe of like Momiji becoming like the prince of the school or something, you know, something like light. But yeah, to do another season or something, it would just not.
Yeah, I don't think you can touch Kyo and Toru at all. Like they could not really even be in it.
Yeah, agreed.
Maybe momentarily or something, but nothing serious. It couldn't be serious drama, which is sort of how this ended. You know, it would have to be something like you said, light and funny and irrelevant.
Which like most of the like first season is like there's hints at where it's gonna go, but like by and large it is kind of light, and I mean there is darker stuff there and character stuff, but like, you know, there's way more comedic, you know, moments in that season than beyond, you know, where it's like
that's true.
And I like that structure of it because it's like there's other shows, like lesser shows, I would argue, anime specifically, where they don't know how to balance that comedy with the drama and or romance. It's like almost like a switch that they turn off and on. But this one, like, it really like blends it well together, I think, because it's like by the time these dramatic things are happening, like it hits you a little harder because you've had those moments of of humor and levity. I don't know, but it's like there's still funny moments up until the end, even though there's like this
That's true. Yeah.
heart wrenching and dramatic and just crazy stuff going on. It's still like manages to be funny too. It's really nice balancing act.
Yeah. And it's not like gut busting humor or anything, but it's like,
Yeah,
cute, funny, I think.
I think that's why it works, because it's mostly character comedy. It's like stuff that is funny because these characters so well at this point that like it's like it makes sense and it's funny and it's just great. It's not like you're laughing just at their stupidity or you're kind of part of the part of the family there. It feels like.
Yeah.
But anything else before we talk about lastly talk about Akito and issues with her character?
Do we still have more? I thought we were done.
Well, we are pretty much done, but remember I'd put a pin in because you wanted to hash out issues with Akito's character arc.
Oh, okay. No, I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
I guess all I'll say is like I see where you're coming from in the sense that she was a what's the right word?
Bitch.
I was gonna say like an oppressor,
evil bitch,
like a almost like a dictator, like but almost like I don't know. There's a good word here.
Evil bitch. It's not one word.
But two. Like this is where I give her sympathy, because she was born into this. She was born being told that that she was this god character. Like her whole childhood is predicated on that belief. And alongside of that, I think, as I was hinting at earlier, I think by the time she has that confrontation with Toru and finally starts to like the tipping point starts to happen, I think, where she becomes more of like just a human and kind of lets go of that like power what's the right word, like persona that she was inhabiting.
Megalomania.
That works too. But like the fact, like leading up to that was the succession of these Zodiac members being severed from her, and it's like as they each went, she started to like lose a part of herself, but it was a part of that self that she had grown accustomed to, this sort of godlike, unilateral control, role that she was playing. And it's kind of all she knew. So I'm not entirely excusing it, because she did a bunch of awful shit that isn't excusable. And when you get to the end of this, Rin even says like, how can you all just accept her back, like nothing happened? Like I will never forgive her. Right. And that's a very, I mean, especially coming from Rin, it's a very fair take to have. But I think the point is that Toru changed their lives for the better, but it was because she showed them how they could live, not just told them or gave them advice. Like she actually was an example to lead by. And it's like Toru wouldn't hold that grudge. She would extend her hand and try to be her friend, even after all she's done. Like, and that's exactly what Toru did. So I don't know. I totally agree with you, as does Rin, that she was awful and did a bunch of awful shit. But should she not be extended forgiveness, or like?
I mean, that's not what I'm saying at
all.
No,
I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm just saying like I feel like it makes sense to me. Like it didn't seem to me that she just like changed in a flash. It seemed like everything was crumbling around her. She was brought to her knees, was ready to commit murder. And then Toru, like through all of that, after being stabbed, like finally reached her to change.
Finally reached her by saying, "I want to be your friend."
About 50 times, yeah.
That's the problem I have with it.
Okay, but it's not like she said it once. It was, it was her saying it over and over while she's bleeding. And
so you're a fan of Good Will Hunting, I assume, where the main crux of the plot is all solved by someone saying, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault."
I've never seen it.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. No, it's just, there's not enough there, for it to make sense. like, I understand what you're saying. Like, everything is crumbling and she needs an out. And she has indicated since very early on, even before Kureno's curse broke, I believe, that she is basically evil. Like, she tortured Yuki when she was a child. Um, and you're saying that she was born into it and told that she's this god or whatever, but this has been going on for generations and generations. There's no indication that anyone else ever had this reaction of megalomania and like absolute power and control that she had. She has been depicted this entire series as essentially absolute evil. All it took to cure her of that is someone saying they wanted to be her friend. But Yuki wanted to be her friend when they were children, and she fucking tortured him. I don't know. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve to be forgiven. I'm just saying that the cause for her redemption is weak, basically.
I see.
That's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, like it happened too fast, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, saying I want to be your friend over and over is not going to fix anyone that is that. Yeah. Well, it's not going to fix anyone, especially not someone that's that far gone. I don't think it
fixed her. I think it just gave her hope.
It did. I mean, it gave her a new perspective, which she was able to then like immediately embrace and like turn the page. And it just doesn't work that way, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's a journey. I mean, because you cut to like her Akito standing outside the hospital. Like I think Momiji's out there, and they're like talking, and it's like the first time where she's like talking to him as like trying to as an equal and not as like a superior or whatever. But she like to me, it's like clearly she was hesitant to even go in there, was terrified to face this, meaning that like she knows what she's done, and she
right. Because that's all post her cure.
Yeah, I know. But that's why I feel like it's very similar to Kyo in the sense that with Toru, he thought, once he realized that he felt, that her mom was who she was and that he felt responsible for her death, he didn't see a way past that with Toru. Like he could never be forgiven, right? And I think Akito was similar. Like by the time she's losing all of these ties to the Zodiac members, and also, like we said earlier, it's the only time that all the Zodiac members have been alive. So it's like even more, had added to her megalomania or whatever grandiose ideas of her power. But
power lust.
But I feel like in that moment where she was like stabbing Toru and like had already stabbed Kureno, like she was ready to go down with the ship, meaning that it was all over. She didn't see a way through. She knew what she had done cumulatively, and she's losing everyone around her. So what recourse does she have but to spiral out of control and take vengeance on the people she blames to be at fault? But when she tries to do that, Toru doesn't, give her what she wants. She doesn't like beg for her life. She doesn't, try to reason with her. She just says, I can feel what I can see what you've been feeling all this time, and I want to reach out to you. And but she doesn't do it once, right? It's several times where like it escalates to that cliff.
All right, but there have been so many other people that have said probably similar things to her. Shigure, for example, Kureno, have like through her life probably said like, yeah, you've had a crappy life, and that didn't change her, but somehow Toru does, because I don't know. I guess to sort of answer my own question there, they were members of the Zodiac and therefore were like beholden to her, whereas Toru isn't, except for the fact that Kureno's curse was broken. And I don't know.
Which that's an exception.
It's just When you first mentioned Kyo, I thought you were going to go back to the end of season 1, where Toru's love heals him as well. Like he's all like, I'm a monster, everyone hates me, and she's like, yeah, but I still love you, and then everything's fine. It's essentially the same thing. It's just, I don't know, Toru just is the cure-all. It's a little disappointing. I'm not like overall.
I'm not trying to change your mind.
I still love the series. I still love the show in general, like all of it. But like, it's too easy. It's like super easy turnkey solution, right? Like they just oh well, Akito has been a shit for this entire series. How do we fix her? Oh, just sprinkle a little Toru in there. Oh, yeah. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying because I think if we go back and listen to episodes on the prior seasons we did, I think I was making a similar argument of like, wow, Toru can do no wrong. She just, and
she is magical.
And to a certain extent, that is true. But I feel like, and we can end it after this if you have any final words too. But I feel like in the story, if Toru had failed to reach Akito, that, I mean, she probably would have killed Toru or something, but like I feel like the path she was headed on was to end her own life. I feel like I just got that feeling that like that was the only way out. If all the Zodiac members are going to leave her and, you know, taking in all she's done to them and everything that's happened, like.
But that would have made way more sense. She kills Toru and then is gunned down in a hail of police bullets. Like that would actually make sense, but what happened didn't make sense. It was too quick. It was too pitting the pendulum, right?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, all of this horrible stuff, and then the army comes and rescues me. Boom, done.
It had to happen, and it did happen.
Super easy, barely an inconvenience, as we often say, mimicking someone else. But
yes, fair enough.
Yeah. That's just how I felt about that, and also the Kyo thing at the end of season 1. Both of those were just like, oh, well, why didn't we just do that before? You know?
Yeah, I guess it's like, I don't know. It all comes down to feelings, which are like emotions and feelings and perspective, which is something that's difficult to portray like entirely on screen. So it's like left up to interpretation, like to a certain extent. Like I had a different take. So that's I don't know. I guess that's it.
I just feel like they could have dove into it a little bit more, given it a little bit more time, fleshed it out a little bit instead of this sort of insecure. That's all.
Yeah, that's fair. It all pretty much happens in one episode, I think. So.
But yeah, I agree with you that needed to happen for the plot, because the plot needed to go the way it needed to go. But that's not a good enough reason for that to make sense. Right?
Yeah. Well, that wasn't my reasoning, but yeah, I was just kind of agreeing with you. Like it had to happen, so it did.
Oh yeah, it had to happen, so it did. That's,
yeah.
I don't know.
Fair enough. I do not. Yeah, I don't think that's an unfair request to have a little more time there to really convince, you know, to really show it. It was enough for me, but I totally get that.
Yeah, it may be that just we didn't see enough of what like Akito was thinking at that point, maybe.
And I thought we were going to get more like internal Akito stuff. You know, we got a little bit of the change that happened there, but it wasn't as like it never really shifted to her perspective entirely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we had seen more of like what Akito was dealing with and how she was, you know, I guess ingesting this love that Toru was throwing at her.
Yeah.
Would have carried more meaning. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, that's fair. Akito could have definitely been had a little more depth to her in general, I think, because it's like aside from just like being a jerk to all the Zodiac members, what the hell else did she do? Like,
right. Yeah. For the first 2 seasons, she's just like evil incarnate, right?
Yeah.
And like no justification for it or anything, and no explanation. Then in season 3, they retcon it a little bit and give her a little bit more character depth and say, oh, how shitty her life must have been. Which I guess is a little bit the end of season 2 as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's not really retconning either. But
yeah, it's just you wanted a little more.
They don't offer any depth to her evil until they're ready to cure it.
Yeah.
And the cure, I don't know. We've talked way too long about this.
Fair enough. I wanted to, but I think we've it's run its course. It was a good talk.
If any of you listeners have more to say about it, feel free to leave comments on the YouTube video that you are probably listening to. And if you're not, go to YouTube, find it, and leave a comment. And I'd be happy to have a further discussion about this with you, as I think George would as well, if you disagree with either of us, since we have differing opinions on this a little bit, it seems. Or you can find us on any of the social media networks at UmLikeAnime. That's UMLikeAnime. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. We've even got a Reddit. We're online. We've got a Discord, umlikeanime.com/Discord. We'll get you that invite. Yeah, join us, talk to us. That's we enjoy talking about anime, and that's why we created this show. And I know that we have listeners because I can look at the stats every week and see how many people listen. Uh, the thing that we're lacking is feedback from you. We'd like to hear from you more than we currently do. I get it. I'm one of those people who also, doesn't really comment on YouTube videos or anything else, any of the other media that I consume. I occasionally make posts in subreddits about shows that I like, talking to other fans of those shows. But I encourage you to, maybe break out of your shell just to say hi. I'd appreciate it, as would George, I'm sure.
Hi.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us. This episode is really long. It probably should be 2 episodes. We may discuss that afterwards and find out that it actually is 2 episodes. But I'm going to go get another beer and take a piss.
You can't take a piss. The piss stays here.
I can take a beer?
You can take a beer, but not a piss.
All right, I'll go leave some piss. I mean, it's beer either way, I guess.
Yeah, beer and beer.
Pre-processed beer and post-processed beer. Say bye, George.
Bye, George.